Thank you for tuning in to the EVlution podcast. And once again, this episode is sponsored by Shred Lights. Shred Lights make the most versatile flashlights in the world. They can be easily attached to any electric vehicle. So whether that's an electric unicycle, electric skateboard, e-bike, even your helmet, a scooter, a one-wheel, or maybe you're just doing some work on your Tesla, either way, these pocket-sized lights have a ton of power in a very small form factor to go where other lights can't. Also, they are rider-owned and operated and known for their amazing customer support. Look, with 25,000 riders around the world who trust their products for daily riding, Shred Lights is a no-brainer for EV riders. So please check out this sponsor in the description for a discount and also to support this podcast. So to recap, you want a flying unicycle.
Yes.
That literally hovers and flies. So at that point, it's just a flying machine. But you think we'll just get the typical little improvements, but they will listen to us a bit and give us some more options for things in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I think we're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're probably aligned with me. Well, aside from the flying thing. Like, I think in the future, yeah, we'll get bigger specs. Welcome back, everybody, to the EVlution podcast. My name is Mickey, and today I have with me Erwin from the Black Cobra channel on YouTube. Everybody knows his live streams. What's going on, Erwin? How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on, Mickey?
Just hanging out. Today is a very special day because, I think I've said it before, but you have the #1 live stream channel, or a show, I should say, in our space, and it's something that I try to tune into every single week if I can. I'm always there to troll in the comment section and
and we definitely appreciate that.
Make jokes and
yeah.
I'm there to
That's
be.
what makes
I'm there
it
to
great.
be. Yeah, I'm there to be sarcastic and silly. I'm not there to give serious advice, really.
And see how many people have 10,000 miles on their wheels.
Yeah, 10,000. I think I've updated this now. In order to have an opinion on any unicycle, you need to have 50,000 miles on that specific wheel before you're allowed to audibly speak about it.
Okay. You can comment and text, but you can't.
No audible speaking allowed. You guys can find Erwin on Instagram. Is it the Black Cobra on Instagram? It's THA.
THA.
And then the same for YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever.
It's all there. Oh, are you TikTok? You TikToking now?
I just put my videos on TikTok. My daughters are TikToking, but yeah.
I tried to upload a video the other day. It's been like 4 days and it's had 4 views.
Yeah, I am not quite there. I guess, I don't know. I don't spend enough time doing that.
You have to be in it. You know what I mean? Like you're the kind of guy who's like, you're in the lifestyle, but you're not in it in like the sense of like, it's all consuming. You have a job, it's like not all consuming social media. If you guys are familiar with Mr. Beast on YouTube, who's probably the most famous ever, like he was eat, breathe, sleep, YouTube. I mean, years ago he started, but yeah, he was to a level most of us probably would go, you're nuts.
Well, that's the thing is, if you're really, really into it and it's your only job or your only profession, then it's easy to be 150% into it. But when you're like us, where you have, outside jobs, family, it's what you do. You do it because you love to do it, but you're not doing it to survive. So, it's a different ball game. I'm really into it, and I love watching videos, and I spend a great deal of time doing all this stuff. But I guess, at some point you're like, okay, I hope it did well. Come back. Well, it didn't do well. Oh, well.
Would you go away for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that there are some people who don't have a day job. This is all they do. And God bless them, because there are people that do really well just being content creators. And I hope once I am able to retire from my jobs, because I have more than one, when I am able to retire, then I would like to do this on a regular basis at a full-time status. And at that point, of course, you'd like to, make a decent living at doing what you love to do, because that's the dream, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been on that app called Clubhouse a lot recently, and I invited you to that, and
Yeah.
I still think I want to encourage you to dive in further with that. I could be wrong here, but I feel like it just ends up like you and I just hang out late at night talking on there. You should be
So
diving
far.
into other stuff too. I get a lot of value out of it.
Yes.
But I was going to say that, I'm learning a lot about a lot of different things. And sometimes I go into like YouTube centric rooms where people talk about that and how to how to improve your channel and that kind of thing.
Right.
And it's interesting, like what people think after they talk to you or if they talk to somebody else, like things they'll figure out that, could be interesting for you or whatever. Like, so with that mindset, I thought, oh man, like even if like, what do you have, 7 years or something till you're retired?
4 actually.
4? Okay. So let's say in 4 years, your EV channel is not in a place where you think it should be, or maybe at that point you keep putting more effort in and you're like, it's not really lifting the way I want it. These guys talk about situations like that, like pivoting. And I was like, oh man, it would be so interesting if you decided to pivot at some point. I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying if you decided to, you could have a YouTube channel dedicated to like, you got to creatively figure out how to do it, but like talking about like what it was like to work on the police force, things like that. Like people, so here's why I say that. And it's less about specifics to you. I'm just interested on this topic of people pivoting. It's so interesting that there was a guy who was making like interesting content and there was like, it's not popping off. So now he makes animal content. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, anyways,
Pivot.
in our genre, our niche, or niche, however you want to say it, I've been looking around the landscape for a long time, and I do a lot of thinking about the future of my channel and like where I think it could, if I was, whatever that means, but successful or the top dog or whatever that would mean, actually how big could it get? And myself, I believe not very big, and I've talked to some other gurus and they agree with me. Because anyways, my point is looking out, there's other niches out there that have a much wider base of people who'd be interested. Like how many times do you show somebody a video of yours or Sean's or something and they go, someone who's not in our community, and they go, it's pretty cool, but I kind of don't care because I'm not interested,
Yes.
That's not what happens generally for any other kind of YouTube content I share with people on anything. So it might change. And I feel like Sean always says, yeah, Mickey, aren't you and I betting that will change? I'm like, maybe. But yeah, so it's like something that another expertise and passion of yours.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your field. I would watch so much cop stuff. Again, this is not me saying shut it down at all. I'm just saying.
It would definitely have to be like after I retired.
Yeah, of course. I understand.
Yeah, because that's the issue right now. I can't do anything, that has to do with it without express permission. So I don't really talk about it a lot. But, afterwards, it would be a different story. So, I could pivot into something like that. But that's mostly why, if you look at my actual logo for the Black Cobra, it's gadgets and gear. Because electric unicycles was not what I started at. It started out doing. It was drone stuff I started out doing.
They suck you in, though.
Yeah, and any kind of gadgets that I could find, because I love gadgetry, and that's my thing, and that will maintain my thing. I think ultimately once I get, once I'm able to retire and do more of this, then I would just include more of the gadgets that I use to do what I do in the world of PEVs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why sometimes I'll throw a camera in, sometimes I'll throw the drone in, sometimes. And recently I throw in like the Xbox Series X because I like gaming too. All the gadgetry that I encounter, and that's really what started my channel, was because everywhere I went, I was always helping people with the information that I already knew. Like we'd go to the Apple store and they'd be, somebody would be standing, I wonder if this, and this. And I'd overhear and I'm like, well, yeah, you can do this. And they're like, oh, thanks. And my wife's like, everywhere we go, you're like always giving out advice and helping people with these gadgets. She's like, and I said, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. I'll put a channel out. And that way, when someone says, hey, do you know something about this, and this? Yeah, here's a link. Go watch this video. And that's what I still do.
Yeah.
You know, there are people that, in all walks of my life that, you know, different facets of my life that I encounter. They're like, you know, they'll ask me like headphones. There's a few people that have, well, which headphones do you use? And now I'm using the AirPod Pros, which I know you don't like very much. But before I was using, and I keep forgetting the freaking name, the Jabras. And these Jabras were my favorites. And I had a couple people buy them. Well, actually a few, because they asked about them. I sent them the link and they're like, that's a good idea. I like those. And then they ended up buying them. And I'm like, okay. And I felt great because I felt I was able to use the information that I had gained from my experience and help someone else. And that's really what I like to do, you know?
Yeah. The side caveat to that, which applies to both of us, I guess, in a sense, is like, that would basically situate you and myself in the tech space on YouTube, which is the literal most saturated section. So like if you were to tell somebody who's like slightly in the know about YouTube and that kind of thing, and you're like, oh, I have a tech channel, they go, good luck. You know? That's not to say, obviously, there's always like cases where you find the right angle, like your perspective on how to tackle it or whatever, like that makes you sail.
And like I thought the middle-aged dad angle. There's a couple channels like that already.
or even like you just mentioned that it seems like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, do you enjoy the tech, if you will, more, or the assisting of people with their tech?
Both. Like I love the tech. That's really my love because I get so into it. But I enjoy helping people. That's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because I've been that way forever. You know, my mother she had the biggest heart. She would reach out to everyone she could possibly find. Someone needed help, my mother was there to try and help.
Yeah.
She was a harsh woman, like she was raised on a farm and like didn't play, but when it came to helping, she was the first in. And I kind of adopted that from her, I guess, you know, because anytime I see someone in need, I'm like, hey, yeah, what do you need? You know, trying to help out. And because I love tech, that's what I can help you with, you know, because I don't know everything. All I can do is give you the experience of my knowledge, you know what I mean? Or give you, you know, the benefit of my knowledge, rather. You know, everything I do, I try to soak up and I have so much fun doing it. And then when I can't figure it out, I'm like, all right, let me research online, YouTube, Google, whatever. And, oh, this article, that article, you know, like you do. And you can't help it. And then once you know something, you can't unknow it. You like, it's just there. So when someone asks you a question, you're like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. And, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it's a great feeling. It is. So I enjoy it. I enjoy knowing that something I did, something that I gave to someone else, helped them out, some sort of information. And it like thrills me, you know. My wife would say, oh, you just like the attention. And I'm like, you're right, I do. I'm a showman. I've, you know, been on stage, on screen, and I'm like, yeah, I love that, but
I heard they call you Hollywood at your job. Is that true?
Not quite that, but something akin to it.
What was that? Is that an Eddie Murphy movie, a Hollywood Cop or something like that? There was it was like a modern Eddie Murphy movie. It was kind of crappy.
Yeah, there was I was a dancer.
Obviously, nothing a far cry from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, I was a dancer, and I did I was on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube. I was on MTV for a little bit, and a dancing show back in the day when I was younger, and because of that, it was one of those things that brought me to the forefront of, you know, I guess popularity in my little area over here, and
sure.
So a lot of people knew who I was, and so that putting you in the forefront. And then when I got into law enforcement, then I started seeing a lot of people, and they're like, "Hey, weren't you weren't you dancing on MTV?" Yes, I was dancing on MTV. You're that dancing cop. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's like the start of like a comedic cop movie. Like you
Yeah,
show up to the
exactly
scene of
what
a
it
crime
sounds
or
like.
whatever, and they're like, "Aren't you that dancing?" Blah blah blah, and then your partner, who's maybe a little more senior, is just like, "Oh God," you
Yeah,
know. I
that's
feel like,
exactly what's happened.
dude, my dad's a firefighter, so I understand the culture that
Yeah.
exists there, the ribbing culture, the breaking of balls culture,
Hmm.
especially when you're a probie or a rookie or whatever you guys. I don't know what you guys call it over there, but
Yeah, rookie.
yeah, in the firehouse it's a probie because you're on
Hmm.
probation. Man, I feel like I just had a genius stroke of idea. You should consider this. Throw it out if you don't like it. Throw it out. But can what do I know? But consider this as like a because on YouTube you can obviously like do whatever you want, but you can have different like playlists of I have this. We're on the podcast, right?
Hmm.
So I do my main thing in the podcast. What if you started a side series? Test it out because you
Hmm.
got nothing to lose. Where it's not so much gadget or tech reviews, but identify some large issues, and you could even like figure this out via Google searches.
Hmm.
Other people have with specific tech and gadgets that are like
Hmm.
really big questions, and like maybe it's a creative way. I don't know how you would shoot it or whatever, but where you help people on those questions around those gadgets. So it's not a review; it's more like the Miss Cleo or whatever you want to see it of helping people, because how many people, young and old, just get stupid with stuff and go, I don't know how this works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then even half of them like don't think to go to Google and look it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Consider that maybe that'd be a side thing in addition to your main.
There you
It
go.
could be interesting to see a more warm, like educational, like I don't know, like.
Did you know that if you look up
Wait, so your channel's just going to be you telling them how to Google search the answer? If you go to google.com and you type in how to plug in my
type this in.
PS5.
Oh, don't mention PS5. That's a sore subject. Sore subject.
Oh, yeah. You're an Xbox guy, though?
Yeah, I'm an Xbox guy, but I usually get both systems, and I've
Oh,
been trying to get a PS5 since day one, and I can get one for $900.
oh, right.
I'm like, no. Several people have offered me them for ridiculous amounts. The closest I can get now was, I think, 725. I'm like, the system is $500.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll toss you $50, but that's it.
Uh,
But no, that's all they want to do. So they have bought them all up online, and they're reselling them, and they're making tons of money. But it sucks for us that just want to have one. Like, I'm not paying that kind of money.
yeah, I considered getting a PS2 recently.
No,
Just for nostalgic sake, because that was what I played when I was younger.
yeah,
PS2. I played a lot of things. I played PS1 as well, but
yeah.
PS2 was for me. That was the last time I gamed. Was on
Oh,
that
wow.
system. I'm not really a gamer, so now recently I got into VR and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, game. So I was like, oh man, I'll buy PS2 super cheap on eBay, and I'll show it to my kids, or whatever, and then I'll get like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and all that stuff I used to play, Crash Bandicoot, things
There
like
you
that.
go.
But then I was like, oh, this is great. And then like a dope, I went on YouTube and I typed in, how much better is the PS5 graphics compared to the PS2?
Don't do
And
that.
I saw it was like PS1 versus 2, 3, 4, and 5 graphics. And I was just like, PS3 is a little better, but I don't know if PS3 is worth spending a little more on eBay. And it was like PS4, okay, dang, PS4 is pretty good. And I was like, PS5, get out of town, get out of here with those graphics. And then I went back to like looking at the PS2. I was like, I kind of ruined myself.
Yeah, you shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have looked.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's what happens.
yeah.
That's what happens.
One of the things people, I mean, you're outspoken about, but like people notice a lot and enjoy about your live streams is just like the super positive energy you give off. I'm
I try.
curious, like, where that came from.
Again, big influence by my mother. I often say that she had, she had a huge heart and an infectious laugh. My mother would laugh, and she was one of those people that when she laughed, she cracked herself up. Like,
That's interesting.
yeah, one of those loud, boisterous laughs it was just so funny. But like I said, she was hard, like, because she was mom and dad. My dad was never in the picture, so I was raised by just my mother, and she was hard on us, like real hard. But then when she was having fun, she was hilarious, and her heart was huge, and she laughed so much and so like full that it was a positive environment. And I just turned out, like she was. I've always been super positive. Um, Growing up and coming up through my 20s, dancing on stage and stuff, and I did acting and a little singing, not very well, but a little of everything, and it just, like, I continue to do all these things in a positive way. Like, I've always put forth a positive vibe, and I honestly don't know any other way. Like, and I wouldn't want to, because because of the things that I've been a part of as far as jobs are concerned and in life, I've dealt with a lot of negative, and I know that negativity can spread, but positivity is infectious and can spread just as fast if that's what you maintain. So I always put out that, and I'm always expecting that back. I don't always get it. As you know, sometimes you put out positive energy and you get back venom, but I do my best to put out the most positive energy I can, and it's not an act. It's just who I am. Just the kind of person that I am. I'm always energetic, always enthusiastic, and always positive. I try to turn that around. I use that energy when I used to speak at different schools and different groups, and I would take someone in the group and let them speak and say something and give me a scenario, and then I would take that scenario and run with it and flip it and spin it on them, and before the end they were like, "Oh, I never thought of it like that," and I used to do it to high school teenagers, and I would try to pull them in all
Okay.
the time and
Would you
get them on.
speak like,
Yeah,
like as a police officer to the,
yeah.
okay.
And I was, and it would be, because there was a lot of negative, obviously, between when it comes to teenagers, high school teenagers, and
Mm,
the police, even back then, because this was a good 10 years ago. Even back then, when I was doing all these different speaking engagements, I would allow them to say all kinds of things and then flip it. And then, they would be like, at the end, they're like, you know what? I never thought about it like that. I'm glad you came. It was good talking to you and meeting you. And I tried to leave them with a positive experience. And I'm that way no matter what my interaction with people is, no matter what I'm doing, what role I have on at that time. I'm still, I still carry out that role in a positive manner,
yeah.
and so it seems to seep through, and people seem to be able to feel that. I'm really happy about the fact that we reach so many people, because every week there's people from all over the world that are on the live stream, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, hey,
Yeah.
Nigeria. This last one, there was a guy from Nigeria who's trying to get into wheels in Nigeria, and he has no one to ship them to him. And then I'm like, hey, Afiz is right here. He can ship to you. So hopefully they connected.
Well, I think I commented,
Yeah,
like it feels like we're about to be scammed by Nigerian prince or something like that. That's like a very American, it's a thing.
yeah, that's our thought process.
Those emails were real, bro.
Yeah, but he hit me up later too. That same dude with another comment later. He was like, "Hey, I really enjoy your live stream, and I'm really glad that you put me in contact with him, because I really want to, get into this, and there's really no way for me to do it over here." I'm
Right.
like, "Wow, I'm glad you're able to, reach out. Make sure you go ahead and reach out, because he definitely will send what he said. He's a man of his word." So
Yeah. It's interesting that you said like your mom was like kind of tough as nails, but then she had this other side. I'm curious as to like, I don't know if it's like a 50-50. I don't know how you would really put a percentage on someone's
yeah,
personality
it's
like that, but like how did you not, I guess, sort of walk away with more of like the
The other
toughness
side.
and not so, yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Well, I think that part of that is internal. Because you are affected by your environment, but part of it is just inherently who you are, and how you develop, I guess. And because as you know, as we're coming up, development is weird. You think a kid that is like super positive and energetic as a kid, and they grow up and all of a sudden they're like, that teenage angst, and they don't want to speak to anyone, and how dare you tell me what to do, and this and that. So you never know how someone is going to grow and which
Right.
way they're going to lean. So I did have pretty much a 50-50 shot. But I think my mother also showed me a good balance of that. Because I still to this day think of her and I'm afraid. like, if I do something right now that I know she didn't agree with, I'm afraid she's gonna dig her way out the grave and smack the shit out of me. That's how afraid I was of my mother. And oftentimes my comments coming up was, somebody would say to me, well, we're gonna go do this. Let's go. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Oh, you're afraid? You're afraid of your mother, huh? And the other kids in the group would be like, yeah, have you seen his mother? I'm afraid of his mother. I'm like, she was that kind of person.
Yeah.
But then when we were over, she around the house, she would hum all the time. She loved to sing, church going every Sunday. So it was a positive vibe, and she laughed so much and played board games with me and stuff. So there was a lot. I have 3 older brothers, but they were all older and out of the house.
She from Massachusetts?
No, down south.
Oh.
South Carolina.
Oh, nice. Did you grow up down there too, or
No.
how did you get to Massachusetts?
Springfield, Massachusetts, born and raised.
So she moved up there some point before you were born.
Yeah, for work.
For work.
And then, yeah, and because down there on the farm, at one point, Springfield had a lot of factories, and there was a lot of work up this way. So she ended up being a visiting nurse, and
Okay.
helping people in their homes. And that's what she did most of my childhood. But that's why she came up here, and her sisters came up here and never went back. And
They liked it that much, huh?
Huh?
So they liked it that much.
Yeah, but I think it was more of they all came up for work, and they just kind of stayed.
Yeah.
The weather is definitely not better.
No. Okay. Yeah.
I'd much rather be in South Carolina for weather, but
I mean, like, my cousin lives in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And I recently visited him. He has a restaurant there called Dewey's Irish Pub.
Okay.
And I remember it was winter when we visited. Like, it was my wife and kids, and my parents came up from Florida, and we all went over there and saw him. I just remember thinking in the winter, like, this is the most depressing place I've ever been to in my life.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Rural parts of Massachusetts in the winter are awful looking. Like, I was like, oh, how could you?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in New York and probably Boston area probably whine about the dreariness of the winter time in a
Yeah.
city. But I'm like, I don't know, man. Just like being in the sticks when it's like that, I'm like, ugh. My brain is like, no, got to get out.
Yeah. Well, imagine my wife. She's from Puerto Rico.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm sure she's dying up there.
She gets so depressed. That sad, seasonal affective disorder is like real for her. She gets so sad, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
And then she goes, "It's all your fault."
Well, I mean, you guys could retire to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
The only issue is, Francisco, Francisco and his wife, we're good friends, and they're Puerto Rican, and they were like, we would love to retire to Puerto Rico, but like the healthcare is trash.
Terrible.
So they're like, that's like the biggest thing. So they're actually they're gonna retire to upstate New York.
See,
Opposite direction.
we're probably gonna go. I don't know, Florida.
You should. I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Are you going back?
No. Well, I say the Florida is the land of cockroaches and old people. So at that point, you'll fit into one of those categories. I think I've got a little bit longer, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait a little bit longer, but I definitely want to go somewhere warmer.
I think at that point, you live like your whole life there. You'll be like the perfect candidate to be a Floridian. You know what I mean? In the sense of like you'll be there and you'll be like, how did I ever live in a cold environment? You know, and like if you move there, you'd be like, this is a dream come true. It's kind of like Duff's story, right? So Duff is from Pennsylvania, from like Pittsburgh area. And he moved down there some time ago to Florida. And he's just like, I remember, he told me this story. I remember going home after like a vacation or something back to Pittsburgh and being like sad. Like when I went home, I wasn't like, yes, I'm home. Like he was like, I'm kind of like, ooh. He goes, now where I live now in Florida, like when I get home, I'm like, oh, this is nice. It's nice to be home.
You're excited to be home. There's a difference, that's for sure. I don't care what people say. The weather affects you drastically. And if you don't realize it, you're a fool. Because, I mean, I wasn't one that really realized it a lot. Like, my wife would say it, and I was like, it's not that bad, you know? But I was born and raised here. So for me, it's not that bad. And honestly, to circle back to what we're like so involved in are these wheels. I mean, that's really another reason why I want to move somewhere warmer. I want to be able to ride more of the year.
Yeah.
And I don't like riding in crappy weather. I just don't, you know.
No one
and
does.
I know, no, well, not really. Some people don't care. Some people ride no matter what. And I'm
mean,
like,
I ride no matter what, but I still care. I'm not like, oh, it's great. You know, compared to like a nice, like 75-degree weather or 80-degree weather. Like that compared to riding when it's 25, I'm like, I'm not excited.
75 and sunny. That's all I want.
If you move to Florida, it'll be more like 85, 90 and sunny and 100% humidity. So if you want that 75 and sunny, you got to go to California. I don't know about you, but I'm not welcome there.
No. Well, I'll find out this year when I go down there. I'll see how welcome I am. My cousin
I'm
lives
sure
down
you're
in San
fine.
Diego.
I'm sure you're fine. Yeah, I think out of the traits from my parents, I probably inherited a lot more of the sarcastic, dry humor side.
You? No.
Which weirdly, like it never dawned on me, and I don't really know if I can like fix it. It's like on the internet, obviously tone is lost, but as we alluded to at the beginning of this podcast, my dry humor somehow is extremely lost on certain people.
Yes.
To where entire videos are made about a throwaway joke in a comment section of a live stream, which I found comical. I mean, it wasn't mad. I was just fascinated that because a subscriber told me, they were like, yo, have you seen this? I'm like, what is this? Who's this person? And they were like, yo, he made a whole video like condemning you for your comment. I was like, really? I forgot I even said it, you know? Like that's how throwaway, but I guess the comment section, I'll let them know.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I think the cake of it was the fact that in the video he goes, and you know what? How come nobody called Mickey out? And I was like, because it was a joke. And then he's like, and I saw one person in the comments had a laugh face. What does that mean? And I was like, probably means they thought it was a funny joke.
No, when I scrolled back, even when I didn't scroll back, he put it on the screen. It had the smiley face and it said like laughing out loud or funny or something. Said, so it was clear that they were laughing at it. And it's just, I think that he took it adversely. So in his mind, it was just, you know, that's not funny. Like, well, you know, why aren't you guys saying something? And I'm like, what was funny about it, because I know him, you know, and he's a good dude. And he didn't mention your name at all. He's like, so this person. And
I know, I find that funny. I'm like, you could say my name. I'm not. Bro, listen, I have a YouTube channel and a presence online. I get a lot of hate every single day. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but it was fun just to see that play out. And then like he put out another video, right? The other day
I didn't see the other one.
he put out a follow up. The
Yeah.
opening 5 seconds was, "Yo, Mickey, I'm sorry, bro." That was the opening. Yeah, because the comment section kind of, they let him know. They were like, "Yeah, you kind of misunderstood here." But I actually talked to him too in the comments. I was like, basically the reason why I was like saying these over the top things was because in a prior video I had made online, I mentioned that I had about 300 miles worth of ride time on a monster, like V1, 2, and between those I've ridden people's. And so when Archie was on your live stream, he was like, "If you don't have 400 miles, you can't have an opinion." And I went, "So we're just going to pick 100 more than I said that?" Okay, well, fine then. 10,000 miles, bro. You know, it's just so silly. It was just like childish insanity.
What was that? What I thought was real funny about that was that I don't even remember Archie saying that. Like, so when you said it, I was like, he said that? And I'm like, I don't even remember that comment. But I remember yours. And then, because I, skimming through and I'm like 10,000 miles, like, I just skimmed over it, kept going. I was like, and then when I saw his video with the title, I didn't really like, it didn't click. And I'm like,
it wouldn't have clicked even if I was a follower of his. It was such an esoteric,
Right.
like throwaway line.
Right, and exactly because of that, I didn't think it was anything like serious or whatever, so it didn't like resonate. And then when I saw it, the title, I'm like, but didn't I see that somewhere before? Like it seemed familiar, but I was like, I'll watch it later. And then when you mentioned it to me, I'm like, no, really?
Francisco's the one that told me about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the thing is, what I love about this community is it's still small,
I wish it was bigger for our sake.
I do too. I wish it was bigger, but because it's small, it's easy to communicate. Like everybody talks to each other, and I love that idea of it. I love being part of this community because people share. And it's not always, it may not be for you. Everybody has their own opinion and everybody's different, but I love the fact that everybody's willing to share and help out, Excuse me. The other day when I had an issue, you saw I reached out to you right away, and then I'll reach out to whoever. Like I'm like, hey, let's work this out. And I've had the same thing. I've had guys reach out to me. There's one guy in particular who I won't mention his name, who reaches out a lot. And I'm like, I think I told you before.
Duff. We know it's Duff.
It's not Duff, but it was somebody who he didn't even have a wheel yet, and he was like reaching out to me every day, and I'm like, dude, like we don't have a whole lot to talk about yet. Like, get your wheel and then we'll talk, But he's like, what about this? What about that? And I heard this and I heard that, and I'm like, well, once you get your wheel, then you can talk about it.
Yeah, having a conversation based on hearsay and rumors about a thing you don't even own yet seems like to be bluntly, ridiculous time.
That's exactly what it was. And I was having issues, and I was trying to be nice. I'm like,
The best advice someone told me is just ghost them. It's because I tell people I have an open line of communication on my Instagram. If you want to ask me anything and you want and you're being a good actor, and you really want to ask something, like I'll more than likely, depending on my mood, answer you on Instagram. But sometimes I get the same kind of thing where someone's just like incessant about something where I'm like, I'm with my kids right now. I can't be.
No.
So I just let it go. I just ignore it. And if the first few times it's weird, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm being a jerk. But I mean, you're not answering. So, I mean, it is what it is. But you could, I get the feeling of being like, I can't do that. I get that.
It's tough. And I guess I run into that with my wife. She's like, do you realize that you're always on that phone answering comments some way, either on your YouTube, or on your Instagram, or on, Twitter or somewhere? I said, I know. I said, I'm sorry. I enjoy doing it and I enjoy interacting with people. So when people see my video and they, they got a question, hey, I love your personality. I love your energy. Can you answer this? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's hard to say no, but I have run into people who have said things that I'm like, huh? Nah, I don't think I want to touch that.
Do you think there's a larger problem there? Like, I think about this a lot, which is like, people do have a lot of access to someone like you and I, and we're not like anything big. We're just, new to this game. And like, I don't know. I keep thinking that I get the mindset. I'm there too. I'm with you in the sense of like, oh, I need to respond and be active. And, you're told online, like through the guru type people, like be engaged with your audience, like just answer every comment. I mean, within reason, like, if someone's being a jerk or whatever, probably best to not. I do sometimes though, and I go all in. I'll tell you more about that later. But anyways, I think I don't know. I think it's creating a bit of a mental instability in all of us. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. I do think it has an effect on us, that it creates the need to answer is strong, and you're like, and you feel like, and this is how I feel. I feel like if they took the time to watch my video and they enjoyed it and they took the time to then reach out to me with a comment or a question, then I feel like, all right, I can take the time to answer them back. And I feel obligated to do so. So I do it a lot. But there are times when I'll miss things, I try to focus. That's why I keep it on the phone right there. So I'm like, oh, because, I'll go a day and not look at something. And then the day after I'm like, oh, damn, there was like 5-6 comments I didn't even see.
Well, what happens when you scale up? Like in the future, you're going to have, let's just predict here. Let's say you've got, next year you got 10,000 subs. And let's say that equals about 500 comments every video or 1,000 comments every video, unique comments. Like, consider the numbers. I mean, that's like the big YouTubers always say, like, I try to answer a few here and there, but there's too many of you guys. Which, like, so maybe the people at the bottom or middle rung are living in this like psychotic episode where we're like trying to answer all these people because we feel like you said, sort of indebted to, like, man, I appreciate that you took the time. I don't know. I also think like maybe old Hollywood had it right in the sense of like Brad Pitt never tried to answer every single fan's mail or comment or whatever. You know what I mean? They made time, talk shows, junkets, things like that. And even then, it's a very sectioned off. Like, you're talking to Conan O'Brien, you're talking to David Letterman, you're talking to the guy doing the press junket for your new movie. You're not talking to all the fans. And then to one more step removed, the only time you are talking to those fans, you were cherry picking at a line of fans who were out front of your movie premiere or something like that, where it's like 2 to 5. That's why I'm kind of concerned about people, even not just our space, not our niche, but like on YouTube, like everyone at the bottom is told, put out a video every 5 minutes, engage with every comment, also then go watch other people's stuff and comment on their stuff. It's insane. Like,
when do you have time to live?
I mean, and also, like, I actually think, let's pretend you had no life. Let's pretend you're one of those people who you said who don't have like a wife and kids and a career and like they're full-time YouTube, big or small. I don't know. I think it's creating like mentally unstable people where your whole interaction, your day-to-day work, if you will, is just like processing millions of opinions and responding.
That's not
to
easy.
Them. Yeah, I mean,
that's not easy. And I understand exactly what you're saying. And there's actually, I believe there are studies that talk about not that specifically, but how the internet and how we seek each other through the internet and answer each other and communicate. The whole way that we communicate now is different than years past, obviously. It's gotten so much worse this year, or not worse, but so much more intense this year because of the fact that COVID has locked a lot of people indoors.
Yeah.
So when you don't have access to people physically, you only have access to them digitally. And if this is your only medium, your only way to communicate, your only way to reach out to people, then you start, like, it starts to change how you interact with people. It starts to change what you feel, what you think, and I think there's a chance, and I have a feeling that more studies are going to be done, and they're going to find that this is so damaging for us, and I'm like, maybe.
I mean, Jonathan Haidt wrote a great book on it. I can't remember the title right now, but it really tracked a lot of the metrics of when social media came about, and like specifically like middle school and younger, a little bit younger age girls, and how there's like a direct correlation with like the rise of Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, and like the suicide rate in that exact age group, and it's wild. I'll try to send you a link if anyone is listening. Like, it's a crazy book that would make you, if you have children and they have a cell phone and they're below the age of 18, like, it'll make you go rip it out of their hands. Be like, all technology gone, get rid of it all.
Yeah, and it's scary because my wife and I have had that conversation. Like, we notice certain behaviors in our daughters because my daughters are 14 and 15. And, we've noticed certain behaviors and we try to pay attention to it. And one of the things is just that. We're like, she seems a little depressed. Like, she seems a little more introverted than normal. She seems, so we ask those questions. How you feeling? Why, but it's tough because how do you get them out of it? You're like, I'm like, okay, let's go, or let's sit down and play a board game.
They would have to disconnect, like, in the sense that, like, forget the home life. I think it's one of the things he talks about in the book too, is like, you don't know how much they're being cyberbullied on a daily basis through something, in the old days, if you did something stupid in the schoolyard, people saw it or they didn't see it, and then they talk about it later. But then in a few weeks, it's done. Now, somebody can just, like, I mean, I don't think daughters should be doing this, but you could send some nude pics to your boyfriend or whatever, and then next thing you know, it never goes away. The rest of your existence in school, someone can always make a sly comment. Or imagine this scenario, right? Like, maybe one of your daughters, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe she said something dumb one day or did something dumb, like a pep rally or something. Maybe she's a cheerleader and she fell from the stack or something, right? And she looked dumb when she fell, but someone snapped a pic. So maybe one day in class, she's saying something, someone doesn't like what she's saying, answering the teacher about history class, and they go, "Hey, Judy." And they just show her that picture. Immediately, it's like a triggering, like bullying. It's like, that didn't exist before. So, like, I think it all kind of ties in.
And now, once they make a meme of you, forget it. It can be a meme that lives forever.
I think some people's biggest fear is ending up on World Star. Like, that's not what you want.
Yeah, it's not what you want. Not what you want. But it happens. And it is sad because today's society, it's much more influential on our children than it was in years past. My wife and I, we realize how old we are now when we say things to our kids and they're going, "Dad, like, really?"
Old man.
Like, "Mom, really?" And I'm like, well, when we were kids, we played outside. We never came in. You guys don't even go outside.
Yeah, there's
like, I'm like, they're on a volleyball team. I'm like, go out back and bump the ball around, Nah, I'm good. I'm like, well, something. You can't always just sit in the house.
What's worse now? You can't go outside. Stay inside.
Yeah, it's like, and if you're outside, where's your mask? You got to be at least 6 to 10 feet away from people, and so you're like, no interaction. You're forcing me not to have any interaction. You're like telling me that I have no choice. Like, the government is telling me I have no choice. You're like,
I've got strong opinions against that. The outdoor stuff. I mean, in the sense of like, I think you have. I mean, God bless you that you have a house, because you can just be like, go in the front or backyard.
Right.
Where, like, here is like, there isn't that. Like in New York, I have an apartment. I go outside. I'm on the street. It's everyone's out there. But it's like, the science shows us that being outside, getting vitamin D from the sunlight is healthy for you. You need to go out and do that. And the virus isn't transmitting randomly outdoors. It's very rare. Some scientists, some biologists I follow pretty closely. In fact, one of them is a subscriber of mine. This guy, Brett Weinstein. He rides a V10F.
Nice.
Weirdly enough, so he subscribes to me and Sean. But I followed him for years, and one day he subscribed, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" I found out through Sean that he rides a V10F or whatever. But they've been talking about how like the loophole right now with the virus is for the outdoor situation. Even if you come in contact with a large group of people and you're outdoors, the likelihood of it passing is slim to none. However, that could change if like a virus could mutate. So if we're all always in large groups outdoors, they said it could scientifically morph in a way that allows it to. So they said the best case is when you're outdoors, carry a mask with you, never wear it unless you're coming in contact with a group.
Right.
Because your face, especially in the wintertime in places like where we live, you need that vitamin D to stay healthier and to semi-prepare your body against any kind of sickness. But yeah, that's like their mantra on it. And I mean, that's why I like to get out and ride.
I find well, at one point I was having issues because I had a lack of that vitamin D.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And the doctor, he's prescribed, he's like, "Hey, you gotta get some vitamin D, dude." And I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm not a big beach, like I don't like the beach. My wife loves it, and like summertime, that'll be her thing. She's like, as long as we can go to the beach, she's good, right? And I'm like, beach here in the colder climates to me sucks because you can't go in the water. So I get all sandy and sticky, and then I can't really go in the water because I don't like cold water.
What if that was pool? Just swap in pool.
Right. That's different. Now, when we're talking about a pool, I love it because the water's warm. Because you can control the temperature of the water that you have in there. If you get a heater, whatever, So there, I'm happy. I swim like a fish. I mean, I'm a Pisces, and I love to swim. But I don't love sitting on the beach in the sand, in the hot sand, doing nothing.
Yeah. That's a lot of women I know are into that.
It's like this, so I'm like, squirrel. I'm like, I got to be doing something. So, but because of that, I ended up not spending a whole lot of time outside. And he's like, you got a lack of vitamin D, dude. You gotta, pump that up a little bit. He's like, we're gonna give you a supplement, but
I mean, I take vitamin D either way. Anyways, I take D3, and then when I got coronavirus, I was just taking a hyped up amount of it, of that and zinc and quercetin, and those are things that I now take. It's still, but even before that, I was taking them in a much smaller dosage as a preventative. I actually truly believe that I came away from coronavirus, as being as mild as it stunk, but being as mild as it was. I didn't have any long or complicated heart issues or anything like that. I think it's due to the vitamins that I was taking.
Yeah. And I was already taking some vitamins, but I think the other reason is I'm lactose intolerant, so I don't drink milk. So he's like, between milk, vitamin D, and milk and sun, if you're not getting either one, he's like, you need some vitamin D, dude. So I'm like, all right. So Lactaid, I started drinking that and getting outside more and taking my supplements. So that fixed itself, and I was fine. But I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because when I was a kid, I used to drink milk by the gallon. I loved milk.
Really?
But then I'm like, I don't feel so good. Like, yeah, you're.
Do you get that way with cheese as well?
Yeah. Yep. Cheese and milk.
Have you tried goat's milk or goat cheese?
I have not.
I heard it tastes awful.
Yes.
But maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. But I don't know anything about the makeup of goat cheese. But I'm curious because my dad's a little lactose intolerant too. I'm curious if it would not have the same effect on your body. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know I've tried lactose-free cheese.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah. What's funny is we made like a pizza with it. and like didn't melt right. And
Oh,
just
weird.
I was like, yeah, we're not doing that again. We're not doing that again.
Bad news bears.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll just use regular cheese and I'll just take a bunch of pills to help offset the the lactose in my system
Yeah.
because
Interesting.
and even that doesn't really do a great job, but it is what it is.
So so where you live to go, this is like the mean joke in New York, but like people here like to say, well, everybody else has to drive a car to go ride, right? So where you live, you basically, I mean, unless you're around the neighborhood, you basically have to get in your car, your truck, to go ride. Do you
It
do a
depends.
long distance?
It depends. Like if I want to go to I go to Northampton, which is like 20 minutes away, and there's trails there,
Mm.
and those trails span for towns and towns, and I'm like,
Oh, weird.
yeah, so we'll go there and hit the bike trail, and it's like a dope bike trail, like what I mean, the kind that you're excited to get on,
Yeah.
and I'll do that. And it goes through a bunch of cow towns up there, and it's nice because you're on it for like miles and miles. So that's fun. I do love riding through the city though. Like the video I just posted from Boston, I was upset because I could only be there for a short period of time because I had already scheduled the live stream and I had to get
Oh,
back.
right.
And I was like having so much fun. I love to be in a group ride going through the city, but going for miles, like a good long ride is few and far between. Most of my rides are like 4 or 5 miles.
It's okay. I
And
mean, we're similar here in the sense of like, it'll be like a clip, as Francisco likes to say. Like we'll go through, I'll do a clip around Manhattan, and that's, I don't know, like 5 or 6 miles, depending on how many. And then we'll come back and hang out at HQ, and then be like, all right, let's go for another. So,
Mhm.
I mean, to me, the weirdos are the people who try to hit weird records of, you know, crazy mileage in one day, and you're like, look, I've done. A lot of guys in New York are not like me. A lot of guys here love to get out of the city and to take long distance treks. I've
Yeah.
learned by doing, not me.
Yeah.
I think famously we went to City Island, and that's a
Mhm.
pretty good trek away. And I rode there, and like the whole way there, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's great views on the way there," but they took the wrong like route. So instead, we were like on the side of a highway, and I was like, "This is awful. Like, this is like disgusting." Like I was promised like a like naturey
Mhm.
experience, Then we got there, and City Island is a dump. Like that's how I saw it, at least. I'm sure people are yelling at me in the comments, but and
They
then
will be.
then when we came back, as soon as we hit Central Park and we came out through Central Park, I got this euphoric like, this is nice feeling, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing the long distance crap anymore because your legs are tired, your feet are tired,
Yeah.
especially. I did that. That was on a 16X. I did that one.
Yeah.
That's not really a good long distance. The Sherman
No.
is a much more comfortable one for long distance. However, I still
Yeah.
would be like, there's a point, especially, I mean, you drive a truck every day. There's a point at
Yeah.
which you hit, I don't know what it is. You hit a mileage and you go, this is silly. Like, I could have drove a little bit, You're just like, if I was in like, the moment I feel like it hits you is when you go, you know what? I'm done. Like, your brain just goes, I'm done with the ride. I don't need to be here
Yeah.
anymore. You're like, oh, but I have to
You
ride
have no choice. Yeah.
25 miles back home. You're like, oh,
Yeah. See, I don't like that. Now so I really like if it's a nice, beautiful, scenic ride like you were promised.
yeah.
If it's one of those, I love it. Or if it's a beautiful city ride where you're seeing all the
Hmm.
architecture and these beautiful buildings and stuff, I love that. Like it's fun. Like when we had a group come here, and I think I'm gonna do that again. Schedule as the spring comes, schedule another Springfield ride because we don't have a whole lot of people here, so I want to bring more people here to ride. We rode around Springfield and we did I think we did 50 miles on that trek when
Mm.
V came here and Panda was
She doesn't
here.
live close.
That what?
How close does V live to you?
Not close at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's in like Washington, Virginia area, like that way.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, yeah,
So she's closer to Lutalo?
yeah. She knows him. She rides with him.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Well, rode with him.
Yeah.
at one point, I guess. She knows them. That's her clique over there. So she just came this way because she was on her, on her trek. She's like, she said, I retired. I'm going to just visit places and ride.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, come on down. She took the train. She came down and we rode for a couple days. That was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a great time, and I was jealous because when she left, I was like, I want to go with you. Like, I want to do what you're doing. Like, I said, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start taking trips, go places, and ride. And then I mentioned it a few times, and now I have several invitations from all over the place, all over the world, to go and ride.
Once again, thank you so much for watching, guys. We appreciate you. Please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, or if you're listening on an audio platform, please consider following this podcast. And if you really like it, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review if you can figure it out. I know some platforms are kind of weird about it, how to get there to leave the review, but it would mean so much to me if you could leave a review on this podcast, as it will empower us to be higher ranked and continue to make more and more and more of these. Where would be your favorite place to go and ride? Out of the whole planet, what would be your first pick? If tomorrow I died, what would be the place you were like, I gotta ride my unicycle there?
California.
Really? Come on. Out of the whole planet?
Yeah. Well, out of the whole planet,
you've traveled, you're in the armed forces.
Yeah, the other places that I would think would be Rio.
Okay, yeah, that seems cool.
Yeah, well, actually, I take it back. Someplace I've been a couple years ago, I'd like to go back to, and I'd love to ride a wheel there, Switzerland.
Ooh, yeah.
I had so much fun in Switzerland.
That place is cool looking.
Yeah, I jumped off a mountainside and did paragliding, and the atmosphere was amazing. Like, I love being over that way, period. I was staying in Germany for a couple of weeks with the military, and we got to go over and it was so much fun that I was like, I want to spend my entire time here. Like, it was, and I was like, I can imagine having a wheel there and being able to ride through those towns. The Swiss Alps, it was twisty and turny, and it was wild. Yeah, and while I'm riding, I go, oh man, I wish I would have brought my drone. Yeah. And then I look over, and there's a guy with the same Mavic 2 drone that I have. And I was like, hey, I have that one. And he's and I was like, man, I wish I had that in my wheel. I would be loving it. So yeah, I think that would probably be my first place. But I want to go to Canada. I want to go back to Germany and bring my wheel. I've been to Germany like 5 times. I love it there.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. There's just a lot of places. This guy from the live stream the other day, what was it? Istanbul, not live stream, from our conversation that we had.
Oh yeah, on Clubhouse.
Yeah, Istanbul. I was like, that would be interesting.
Yeah, it's some of those. I guess it's like a kind of. I don't know where that is. I guess like kind of Slavic, right? Turkey is like. Yeah, near that part of.
I've been to Turkey. I've been through Turkey, Incirlik, military travel. So
a lot of the European countries sound annoying right now for riding. It's all like hyper illegal and
because of what's going on. Where they tackled that guy off the scooter? Do you know where that was? I keep meaning to look back at that video. Excuse me. Those cops they tackled him off the scooter. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. I experienced not quite that dramatic of a thing. That in New York a few years back, probably like a decade ago. So it still exists. But on the west side, there's the Chelsea area. There's the Chelsea Piers over there. And those parks that are over there, I call them the rich people parks because, and it's not really it's not so much about that there's rich people in them, but it's like somebody owns sort of a private park. And so they can just make ridiculous rules for their park. So one day, this is way before EVs, I was riding a skateboard. I used to skate my whole life. I was skating through the park. I had like iPhone earphones in, I'm jamming out. I'm actually just traversing downtown trying to meet somebody. But I was like on the west side, I was like, I'll just stay on the bike path. And then I kind of popped into one of the little parks for a little minute because it's like on the waterfront. It's really pretty.
Right.
Anyways, I see a cop he's chasing me on foot. I'm like on a longboard, just like cruising, whatever. I was like, what's going on? And he like ripped me off my board just to tell me it's illegal, legitimately, it's illegal to have 2 earphones in your ear while you're in that park. Now, put that in a box, and next to that box, there are literally pieces of grass, little lawn areas in Central Park that are called quiet zones. It's illegal for you to talk loudly on them. These are the parts of New York that are stupid. Third box, it's illegal to climb a tree in Central Park. What? What are we doing here? I mean, okay, I get, yeah, maybe somebody could fall and break their neck. I don't know. Can't you just make it? Yeah, can't you just make it a thing? Like, if you fall and break your neck here, the city's not responsible.
No, it's the law. It's the law. No trees. No trees.
So,
you know how many trees I climbed as a kid? My God.
Yeah, so it's like, I was there with a bunch of people one time, and like, yeah, a friend of ours, I guess she's been to Central Park, but she never like hung out there for like a picnic thing, and she just started climbing a tree, and then like the Central Park police were like Paul Blart Mall Cop like came over on their little like gator, and they were like, get out of the tree, it's a $500 fine. And she was like, she laughed at them, went, ha, good one, guys. And they were like, no, we are dead serious. And I was like, yeah, Sarah, they're for real, that's a real thing. And she was like, what? She is like, I'm like, just get out of the tree, man, just get out of the tree.
Like,
she was like,
away from the tree.
She was like one rung up, like there's the first rung of branches, right? Then after that, it's the more experienced you are, the higher you go. Like she was just barely hanging off that bottom rung, and it wasn't even like a big tree. Yeah,
that's wild.
Weird stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I am hoping that things go our way when it comes to our electric unicycles, because we are still living in that gray area right now, and I love it. People ask me all the time, and I'm like, nah, they're not illegal.
Is it?
It's not right now. There's no law against it, but
that's to me that's a black and white then.
Yeah.
That's not even gray. Like, we're living in the fact that they're just, I mean, maybe I can't speak for all cities in America.
Right. That's what I was going to say. The problem is that there are city ordinances in various cities that could be applied. And that's the thing, is right now they don't apply directly, but all it would take is one city council meeting and they could, okay, now it applies to those two.
It's interesting, right? Because that topic is always coming up online. And especially as someone who lives in New York, it comes up a lot. But this idea that, like, okay, so a bicycle exists, okay? Let's set aside the fact there's a motor on it. Maybe that's a fool's errand to set that aside for a second, but let's go here. And bicycles kill people all the time. People use them to kill people. They kill themselves on them. It's not a high number, It's not like the cancer rate, but, like, it happens. And there's so far been one unicycle death in the world, I think, that was, like, run over by a bus.
Yeah.
But, like, so there's not been, so thank God, knock on wood, there's not been an issue yet. But, like, is that really, do people think the government really works that quickly? Like, one incident and that's it? Like, did they ban bikes for a year, like, after the first bike death? This could be my ignorance. I'm just expressing my, like,
no, what it is it's more social outrage or social reaction. Because what we do is small in comparison, people still see it as a threat, a danger to them, because, that looks dangerous. May not know anything about it, have no idea how it works, but that looks dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's all they need to hear or all they need to see. And instead of trying to understand it, it looks dangerous, ban it, just ban it. And that's what ends up happening. And then you have to fight your way back from that. So I'm hoping that does not happen. But again, I do believe that we need to be goodwill ambassadors. And I say, goodwill ambassadors. And I say it all the time because I run into people who are not. And there are a lot of people who, yes, you are going to run into guys in cars that are assholes to us, and on bicycles that treat us like crap.
Ambassadors.
Huh?
Those are not good car ambassadors.
No, not at all, because they feel like we don't belong. We don't have a right. We are not doing what we're supposed to do, so they have the right to treat us like crap, which is absolutely not true. But at the same time, we can't just then adopt the attitude of being an ass for no reason.
Yeah. I mean,
I have ridden with many people that are like that, and I
really
point them out, and I'm like, hey, if you're gonna be like that, we can't ride together, dude. I can't ride with people like that.
As much as New York gets a bad rap, like, I actually don't think there's any kind of strong number of people who ride like jerks. I think maybe it sounds hypocritical to people for me to say that, but like, I really do think that 99% of all people that I ride with, which is all I can basically speak about, is like, are riding just to have fun. They're not trying to be a jerk to people. There have been instances where you could say maybe they are inexperienced, and so it seems like they're posing a bit of a danger to people, but like, that can happen in any kind of sport, and you might, like when VT or Live, when those guys started riding, when they first started riding, they got excited, and they've got a hyper adrenaline mindset. So they were like more reckless, and over time they kind of toned it in, and they're still hyper, I don't know, not aggressive, but just like, I don't know, crazy riders, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I think that they're much safer now, but like, I don't know. I don't think there's like a mentality of, maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I don't think there's a mentality of like, when I ride out, no one matters. If anyone comes near me, I'm just going to like do what I got to do. Like, I don't see a lot of that in the unicycle world, in my world.
But some of it you may be comfortable with, because there are different variants. Like the two people you just mentioned. I don't know Live very well, but I've seen a lot of negative things from him. I know Vinny a little bit, and Vinny is wild, but I haven't seen the negative aggression kind of stuff that I'm talking about. I haven't seen that from Vinny, and like I said, I don't know Live that well. I don't ride him with that, but I have seen a lot more negative from him.
Yeah, I think Vinny's
in videos.
Vinny's riding style, if you will, like, I don't think it's a negative.
No,
you could label reckless on it, but
there you go.
But I don't think you could label it as like, and live too is like, there's a bit of a controlled recklessness there with them. I do like, so I can point out one specific instance where I feel like there's a line crossed in my brain when I was riding with VT somewhere. He can ride reckless, but I do think it's on purpose. It's controlled. But then I think there's a thin line between that and just utter stupidity. So like, one day we were trying to just cross 3rd Avenue to go somewhere. I don't know, Shake Shack or something. I don't know what his rush was. I don't know what his rush was, but it was like 2-way traffic, and it was like, clearly he had the red. He just went through it. I mean, just, and like Frogger. And we were like, what? Why did you do that? And then he like laughed and was like, haha. And we're like, I mean, I respect you as a rider, but what were you doing? Like, why was that even necessary?
You could have just died for what?
So to me, that's like that's the line between like him. But
that's not what I'm talking about, though. That's the thing, is that is a ride style. That's one thing. But what I mean when I say we need to be good wheel ambassadors, and what I'm talking about, that negative aggression is how people interact with other people. Like, I was riding with someone, and and a guy didn't see us, right? So he was about to step out into the street, and you're like, that happens a lot, So you're like, yo, you know what I mean? Or you hit an air horn or whatever, let them know, hey, yeah, you know what I mean? Something. But the thought process is that guy didn't see us. But then there's others who are like, real good, asshole. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. He didn't see us, but he wasn't purposely being an asshole to us. He just
Yeah.
didn't see us. So there's no need to ramp up the aggression against other people. I think that we have to be working together. You know what I mean? I would something like that. I'm like, yo, 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 and oh, okay, my bad. And I'll carve around him, and I'm like, all right, and I'm thinking there was nothing negative there, but I've seen
Right.
people who I've ridden with who have turned that into a confrontation. And I'm like, hey, 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 there's no need for all that. We are all out here just trying to have fun and do our thing. Let's not be aggressive with each other. When we interact with the other people that are out here, they have a right to be out here just like we do. They're not actively trying to hurt us, just keep it together. But I've
Yeah.
seen people who are so jaded by how many times that's happened to them or whatever that they're aggressive. Like I've seen people turn and like start a fight. Oh, real good, asshole. Why? And I'm like, whoa, hey, keep it moving. We don't have to be that way. And I think that if we take on that kind of persona when we're riding these things out in public, then people are not going to see us in a positive light.
Yeah.
All they're going to see is that fight. Whatever happens as a result of that is going to be what's going to be captured on the video, going to be posted on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or whatever. Yeah. And we don't need that.
It'll
we
show
don't
up
need
on
that.
David Jensen's Instagram. No, I mean, it's interesting because I can see even the gray in that, right? So in your town, I'm 100% on board with everything you said, and I'm on board with it in my town. But I think there is, just to really dive deep here, there's like a thinner line in my head in New York where so I'll paint the picture. So you're coming up to a crosswalk where the light is red. It's clearly been red, so and there's a lot of traffic. So we're all, as a group, starting to stop, and we come up. So there's a crosswalk, right? So we kind of, none of us are like, let me stop at the line. We're just like kind of casually slowing up into the crosswalk area. And if there's a guy walking by who sees us and says something like, whoa, oh my God, you almost killed me, most of us will go, relax. Not like, oh, I'm so sorry, because the reality is I wasn't going to kill you. Like, I was slowing down. I get why you don't feel that way, but relax, bro, relax. If then that guy comes back, I feel like in New York, that's licensed to start a bit of a verbal confrontation, to be like, dude, screw you, like, this is New York, like, get over it. No one was near you. No one touched you. Now you're just yelling at a guy or a gang of people on wheels. I'd be like, do you want to start this? like the other night, that similar thing happened where, red light, me, it's just four of us, not even a big thing. Four of us came up to a stoplight, and a guy did that. He was in the middle of the crosswalk, halfway, like almost to the other side where he was going to of the street. And we pull up, slow down appropriately, and just stop right kind of around that line. And he did the thing where he looked at us and went, really? Really, douches? He said that. And we all kind of looked at each other, and I pointed my flashlight at his face, and I just left it there. And then he turned around, and he turned back, he goes, oh, you're going to put your flashlight in my face, you douche? And that's when, like, the borders of this were like, helmets off. What's that? Like, so at that point, it's like, we kind of just stood there and watched you try to drum something up. Nothing, for what it's worth, nothing happened. They just took their helmets off, and they were like, you're one dude. It's all they had to say to him. And he was like, oh, whatever, tough guys, as he, like, runs away.
Yeah.
And
but that's what I mean. That's the kind of thing. Well, I mean, it happens both ways, and I get that. Something like that, I understand 100%. And if it had escalated, he started it. So you're in New York, you're going to get something back. And one of my videos, as a matter of fact,
for sure.
Right. And one of my videos, the one where I was in Forest Park here, the guy in the van, he just started giving me a bunch of shit. And I gave it back to him. I'm like, dude, don't be a fucking dick now. And I'm like, it's not like I'm not afraid. I mean, if you want to, I can meet aggression with aggression, but I don't want to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the thought. So when he drove by and he's like, don't be an ass or something like that. He starts going off on me, and I'm like, what? Like, I was caught off guard because I did nothing at all. Like, I wasn't even near him, but because I was riding, like, he felt like I was in the wrong because I was riding my wheel in a park. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, those kind of comments, they do get old, right? Like
oh
every
yeah.
person on YouTube or off YouTube around the world has heard or seen that insanity. Yeah, Chooch gets that all the time, like in his videos,
Hmm.
right? He's like, he lives in the land of parks, okay? In the land of like trails and trail riding. And he's like the most silent, like imagine, a dirt bike. He wouldn't be on a
Right.
walking trail, but a dirt bike on a trail is loud and obnoxious. Like he's a literally silent dude cruising around these trails, and all the time there's some old blue hair like
Yeah.
trying to say something to him, and he's just like super nice of it. Like,
Karen.
hey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I mean, you don't have to be so mean. Like, well, you don't have to be so inconsiderate, And then he's just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
now you've crossed the line. When I
Yeah.
apologize
That part
to
is,
you, and then you.
yeah, that part is understandable. Well, I mean, I don't expect us to be pushovers because
Yeah.
we're all grown ass men and women. So there's no way we're just gonna let people do dumb shit. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think we need to look for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my fear. Like I've been around people who, because we're in a group now,
There's a
it's even
mob
more
kind of.
like, yeah, you get that group mentality and you're like, yeah, what'd you say? And I'm like, okay, we don't got to go there. I mean, calm down. He's an idiot, but let's keep it moving. We're here to have a good time.
I just want to give like a PSA to the local guys in New York. Like the next time they're in one of those situations where you sense that someone thinks in the back of their head, I can start some shit with this guy because I know there's a crew of people behind me. I want to be like, David Jansen is not, he's just going to film as you get beat up. So just so you know, they may not have your back. You should double check that before you start something with a guy on the street.
As a caveat, you may want to
Just make sure you know that they really got your back before.
yeah, know who you're riding with. Know who you're riding with. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. Riding in groups to me is amazing. And it's nice to ride, period, but it's much nicer to ride in a group.
Yeah.
So I miss that when I'm riding by myself. And now that I have that EX here for a short period of time, I really want to,
How's that going?
oh, loving it. I only got to go out once, but loving it.
Did you have struggles at first?
Oh yeah. Video coming soon. But let's just say that Gotway has definitely put some challenges in the way, some possible challenges, because obviously they didn't do it thinking that, or feeling that it was going to be this bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, trying to get that thing set up can pose problems, and I didn't realize that it could be so difficult. But it is. When you're proprietary and you're only dealing with, you have to use what they tell you or what they send you, and if it doesn't work, you're just ass out. It's like kind of tough.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about in my video or showcased it that the suspension pump is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. I mean, first of all, people online, when I was saying this before my video dropped, and even after a little bit, when I told them it was about 1,200 PSI, they were like, Mick, you keep adding like a lot of extra zeros. And I was like, no, it's serious. And they were like, how can that be? I'm like, I don't know how that could be. I'm not a engineer. I'm just telling you what it is, man.
The megapascal rating.
But like, so it's that, and then yeah, like the pump is awful. It's like this. It's up to your waist. First of all, that's not fully
No.
expanded. We'll say.
Put that in your backpack.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that thing's fully expanded. It's like up to your eye.
And then you got feet. The feet are on it, and the feet are like sharp edges too.
Right.
And
And then the quick release, mine
Yeah.
at least, it didn't seal. So when I push air, it would just fly out the quick release, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
So I had to like with one hand put all my might into shoving it and holding it to the input, and then the other hand or a friend would then pump, and I'm like. Oh, and the best part is that gauge is like upside down at the very bottom of the thing, like lean over the front, like to kind of look at it. It's such an awkward thing.
Yeah.
it's like the question we always ask is like, who is the person or who are the people at Gotway who do the like A, initial tests, B, middle of the road tests, and C, final tests to say this is an appropriate wheel to sell to humans?
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Like there was a guy who filled it. That guy didn't go, this is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Or is it like he thought it was annoying, but in the culture they're not allowed to say it or something? I don't understand.
Maybe what he got was a good version. I don't know, but I know that my point of failure was at the point of contact between the little piece and the cylinder, so I couldn't even push it further or I couldn't do anything to get in there to seal that, and it just kept leaking out and leak. I'm like, I was losing my mind.
I mean, that wheel especially, you're dead in the water if you can't fill it.
You have to get this filled right. So that instantly, and honestly, out of the 3 suspension wheels, this is the first one. Well, I can't say that because I didn't have to fill anything with the S18 because I didn't have that one. But I haven't seen anything like this. But this was the first time I seen that's just a point of failure. Like it's like a point of failure at different spots.
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem,
The S18 had some unique problems, but talking specifically about the suspension system, like when I first had it, the biggest issue that I felt was, and I felt like it was correctable. I'll hit the issue in a second, but the reason why they would never correct it, and they never did, to my knowledge, I didn't end up buying one, is by the time they sent it to someone like me, the mold is cast. Mm-hmm. Nothing can be changed. And that's a bit of a mistake. Like you need to, I don't know, like, so basically through the side of the shell, there was a little hole where you would put the valve through and you would connect it to the valve that's on the actual suspension. And the hole and the angle of the suspension were just off. So like, it was like a 30-degree off and then it was too far back. So you had to like put it through, snake it around and then back to kind of screw it on. And it was very difficult. Maybe they got better at it or something, but it was like, when I said, hey guys, you honestly need to just do some small adjustment to your shell, this little triangle opening, make it bigger, cut it bigger. And they're like, well, that's not happening. I'm like, why though? Like, they're like, well, we had no problem with it. I go, oh, that's the appropriate thing to say. Like, oh, well, we had no problem. I mean, listen, before I told you this, I thought about it. I had my dad do it. I had my mom do it. I had my sister try it just to see if, and all of them were like, I can't get it to screw on. I'm like, I'm not the only person. And the point is, if a few people in my family couldn't figure out, or friend group, then thousands of others are going to be like, oh, I'm like, so why don't you just, I don't know, like
fix it.
Yeah.
I don't know, fix it.
That initial conversation with them was very much like, they were like, let's talk about the things that you find wrong. Because immediately there was a bunch. So I got on a phone call with like the heads of King Song and we discussed all the things I had going wrong. And like majority of like their answers were like, get over it. And I'm like, okay, I mean, all right. I mean, I guess
that's
like, if that's your answer, then I'm just going to rip it in the video. Is that okay? Like, I'm trying to work with you to like help you make it better. I'm not paid for this, man. Like, not by you, not by, King Song, InMotion, Gotway, Veteran. None of them have ever paid me a cent.
Right. So you're doing this because you want it to be better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's, like I said, I love to help people. So the whole idea of it is to make things better. So if I'm doing this and going out of my way to take my time to do all this, please listen.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned before, I've been working with InMotion on their next wheel, and I've had it since like Christmas. And my new motto is there's been a lot that I've helped them accomplish and fix and solve and make a lot better. And like without me and some key other people that are doing this with them, it would be trash. But it's turning out really well. But there are some things that I'm like, you're so close. Just adjust this one little other thing. And so the motto I have is, well, their product, their show. That's like my new jaded motto I say whenever they just go, nah. And I'm just like,
all right. You're like, hey, I put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, like, they also don't understand too, like the people they send it to were appropriate people to send it to, who actually are considering the consumer as well, not just
Right.
like their own. I don't know. Maybe they got like messed up by working with Kuji, because I've heard from people behind the scenes like he's pretty much like, I don't know, just in his own mindset about like how he wants a wheel to feel. Where maybe I'm an idiot for I'm thinking about the masses, like
And you should. You should be thinking about, because not everybody rides like you do.
Right.
Not everybody rides like I do, so, and not everybody's, my size or your size or, their size. There's different size people, different rider ability, different rider desires and styles. So you're supposed to consider the masses and think about, who will this appeal to most? Will this appeal to a
Right.
big number of people? Or is this a wheel that only, small part of the community is going to like? If you can think about all of us, then you're better off, coming up with a wheel that we're mostly all going to like. So
there's some cool features on the new InMotion wheel that I think embody that they're giving options for the different types of riders, which I'm so stoked that they've done. And a lot of the cool things they have on it, my fear is I'm going to try my best not to let this happen, but like my fear is it'll get swept under the rug as not that important. There's some features that just aren't visually exciting.
right.
Like remember on I think the V11, they like had a somewhat smarter BMS.
Yes.
No one ever talked about that.
Right. They act like it didn't exist, and then I mentioned it a couple times, and people were like, "Oh, well," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, they're." Excuse me. They tried to put a smart BMS in it, so it's better than others.
Yeah,
I guess.
which is I think silly that the community for whatever reason is like, I don't care. I knew that would happen though. Like it's not really a sexy feature, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I tried to make that video recently about not just because they all have smart BMS. Let's just be clear on that.
Right.
There is degrees of how smart. So I'm pushing for a certain degree of smart as of now out of all these companies that I want them to integrate to give us accessibility. So I'm calling it an accessible smart BMS.
Yeah.
So we can see things, we can change things, we can know things. It's not going to prevent everything. Nothing will. Like cars catch fire sometimes,
Yeah. But like you said, and being able to access it is because, the information may be there, but if we can't see it, what good is that? Is it going to stop me, get me to stop in time before the wheel ignites? Or is it, if I can't see it, obviously it's not going to help. So
like I like to think back to when I had my 14S from eWheels, old King Song tiny wheel. There was a day where I emailed Jason, I said, hey, I keep charging this thing, and then every time I go to ride it, like it's been on charge for a long time. Like it never goes past 90. Turns out that means you have a battery problem. And that potentially could end up in a fire if what's happening inside is a few of the cells or one of the cells is depleting too far below the limit to which kaboom happens. But when I think about that, I think about how slow the process was from me noticing to me emailing Jason, and then Jason and I sort of troubleshooting, discussing back and forth over like a week and a half's time of what the issue was, till finally he said, cool, I'm going to send you some new battery. And at that point, he didn't tell me I don't think he told me to take it out, but he said, I'm going to send you some new battery packs. So you're going to need to swap them out. Or you can send it to me and we'll do it or whatever. But like just the time, like imagine if we had accessibility and then I could actually know right now, oh, there's a huge battery problem. The first thing I'd do is whip out my torque wrench and zip, 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 take the side panels off and unplug it.
Yeah.
Put it outside.
Yep.
That's sort of one of, I don't know if it came through very well, but that's sort of like one of the scenarios where I'd like us to be able to prevent if that were to occur.
And I understand that 100%. It makes absolute sense. And I think it's coming. I mean, again, being such a positive person, I'm always thinking the glass half full, and I'm like, we're on the verge. We're on our way. We're getting to where they're listening to us. And then, of course, you tell me, they go, eh.
Even InMotion, sometimes you're just like, meh. Or it's like, hey,
well, that's the thing.
Oops, sorry.
But it's better. It's better than it was.
sometimes I'm like, you need this function, this feature, and this will help you square yourself in the market in this realm. And they go, nah. You're like, okay. I mean, but
Your wheel, your show.
yeah, your wheel, your show. I mean, I do think that like the V11 had some drawbacks in the sense. I think on certain weird topics, well, I think the methodology was dumb, but like they crowdsourced to people how they wanted stuff to, and then they like took all that advice. I feel like they took too much on the V11 to where like, you know, I feel like the end result was it was too high. When you stood on that thing, you're like the Captain Morgan stance.
I love
with
it.
the one leg up.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
The mounting and dismounting, my wife was like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
And it's one of those wheels that either you like it or you don't. And the high pedals, I really didn't think a whole lot about it. And when I rode it, it took me the first time I rode it, and I said, yep, I like it. And still have people going, wow, that's so high. And I'm like, I know, but I love it. I really do. I mean, and then I go back to the Sherman, that's low. And I'm like, whatever. It's a different ride, a whole different ride.
Yeah.
You know?
I think people get too caught up in opinions. You need to consider the source. Like if someone asks you anything, I would look at them and say, consider the source. And I don't mean you're a bad source. I mean, consider how you ride, where you ride, who you ride with, how often you ride. A lot of those things will affect your personal opinion about wheels.
And what I like. Because, you know, what I like may not be what you like. And that's the real key that people don't see. I just had someone, they put a comment and he said something about the V11 because his motherboard fried. And he was riding it, and he's like, oh, you know, I should get the S18 because, you know, and he was trying to explain to the guy in New York there that fixes the wheels for e-wheels.
Oh, yeah, Paul.
Yeah, he was trying to ask him, should he get the, you know, the S18, and he was trying to be as diplomatic as possible by saying, you know, kind of saying, well, I mean, I can't tell you, yeah, you should get the S18 because it's better. Like he was looking for a sure thing, and I'm like, buddy, there's no sure thing. These wheels are mechanical. They're, you know, and they're mechanical, so they're fallible. Things can happen. If you're looking for the wheel that's never going to ever give you a problem ever, I mean, the chances of that are kind of slim. You know what I mean? Even a wheel that is 100% constructed better than any other, it's still mechanical, you know? So you have to take that into consideration. And he was looking for a sure thing. And I'm like,
yeah. And on the other side of it, there's a lot of hyperbole on the internet about these. So it's like, you know, if I saw a video of a guy riding a Sherman slow up a hill on a grassy mountain, or hill, I should say, not mountain. And his control board fried to the point where it's on a Sherman. Did I mention that? The control board fried, and something on the board actually caught flame, right? But we know how well that wheel is designed. That basically he was, I don't know what he was doing, but he's blowing. You might have seen this video. He's blowing on the like smoke, white smoke coming out the top. But basically, what happened was it just literally the board was on fire. But it's inside its own compartment, separate from the batteries. And like in theory, and I'm sure it could happen, it's not going to get to the batteries in that scenario. Right. Maybe it could travel down the cable and somehow maybe, but anyways.
Fire usually goes up.
What I saw on the internet was, oh, Sherman caught fire. Oh, look at this, blowing up, catching fire. A control board blowing is not Sherman's catching fire. And then it's like, oh, look, they all have this problem, don't they? Huh? Like,
right. That's what I mean. I'm like, how did we get to that? How do you draw that conclusion from one that happened? Because I can't get away from the idea that it's mechanical.
And there's got to be an acceptable amount of that, right? Like with every car that comes out.
Yeah.
There's a percentage of them that like just die for no reason or whatever, catch fire or whatever happens to the car.
Any business that deals with mechanical things, they factor that in. There's going to be some loss, some, due to failure, no matter what it is. You can't put all these electronic parts together
Sure.
and say that you're never going to have an issue. You just can't do it. And then you're charging it, depleting it, charging it, depleting it, riding it through bumpy and dirty and wet and this and that, and all the things that we do with them. You can't say that there's never going to be an issue, because if you think that way, you're an idiot. I don't know. And I hate to be that harsh. I'm not trying to, call anybody out. I'm just like, come on, guys. Let's just think about it. I know we would like to have something that was 100% foolproof, would never give you a problem, but we're just not writing devices that are going to give us that.
I think in this year I've decided to lean harder into my sarcastic, don't give a crap mentality. Like I'm going to lean hard into that part of my personality this year and really showcase that on YouTube. I remember my dad told me about this story. I can't remember like what the product was, but some product years ago that was created by like GE or somebody, some household appliance of some sort. I forget what it was, but I don't remember exactly. Well, I think it was the inner plastic pieces for like washing machines. And he said the way it was made at the factory is they'd come off the line and then they'd make giant stacks of them, rows of these giant stacks of that plastic inner shell. And what they would do is take one off the top of each of these rows and they would stress test it and see if it held up. And so it was getting a perfect QC test. What they didn't realize was because of the heat of the factory floor and the fact that these things were plastic, that the ones at the bottom were getting crushed a little bit, just enough to where it was causing issues and like breaking later inside these washing machines. And it took them a while. They couldn't figure out what was going on. Like we've done the appropriate level of QC required of us,
Right.
and they're all coming back positive till finally someone figured it out. They were like looked at the bottom of the stack and then like pulled that out, and they looked like, oh crap, it's getting crushed by this giant stack. It's like, so that like. There's got to be a hyper level of that going on at Gotway for sure.
Right now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, appropriately so. I mean, I thought, I mean, they were due for a revamp anyway. Like we were already like having issues with shells, and the community was like, hey, do better. Hey, do better. And then Sherman happened.
But they don't hear us. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah,
They don't know I exist, you exist.
But that's what I mean.
The only
Because
person
of
is
that.
Marty, and they know him as the big hill guy.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else about him.
Right. But the thing is that because there were so many complaints made, you're like, at some point, somebody is got to, hear it. Like, and I think with the whole Sherman coming out, clobbering him over the head, and in the fires and everything, I think now they're hearing things, and they're doing a revamp and a check, and we have to do something. And I hope they see it, because obviously a lot of people have decided that they're not buying them until they do some things that they need to do, and
Yeah.
and that's rightfully so, I guess.
Somebody gave me a hard time on my YouTube comment section the other day, and they said, oh, looks like your big boycott of Gotway is over, huh? Because I made the EXN video. And I was like, I'm going deep on this one. And we went like 16 rounds. You know how it ended with him? We'd be like, fair point. It's ridiculous. I was like, yo, I'm not buying these. I'm not buying this wheel. He goes, yeah, but you just sold like 50 or 100 of them. I go, that's not my problem. I'm like, I was honest about a wheel. And also the back half of that video, I trashed it and explained the entire problem with the bearing system and how I don't believe that they will actually fix it. So, and he was like, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I got to make money. Welcome to the hypocrisy of YouTube, bro. Like if I'm getting paid to review a wheel, the best you can get out of me is honesty.
Right.
Which is what I gave, Like if that sells 100 wheels still, that's on those people then. Like I said, I think I said in the video, like, like if they don't get this fixed, like, and that doesn't bother you, fine. If you're willing to deal with that, I mean, we've basically been dealing with it for years with Gotway. Yeah. So, but if that bothers you, maybe wait. But we'll see what happens. It's kind of like, I think Gotway should put out, sometimes they put out little pieces of video on Facebook and stuff. They should be putting out their solve. Although I believe it'll be a Band-Aid of some sort. If you want to sell, a lot of people who are like now, anti-purchasing you for a while.
Yeah,
If you think your solve is a real solve, show us before. So then people go, hey man, they put out the video. This looks promising. Or maybe it goes, don't look maybe that's why they haven't. Maybe that's why they haven't. Yeah. That's like famously, I think it was the Nikola. The shell is arguably a pretty good shell, right? On the Nikola. But to showcase that, they took the shell off of the side of it at the factory and they threw it on the ground and then just jumped on it a couple times and went, see, good shell. And we were all like, what? That's not like what would happen in a crash. They also did, you ever see this one? When the MSX first came out, I don't know if you were riding back then, but to showcase like how robust MSX shell was, which is now a joke, knowing what we know.
So it's such a joke.
I think it was Lucas from Gotway, like ghost rid it. So he was riding and just jumped off the back and stood there and let it ram into a like curb and was like, see, it's good. I was like, is this a cartoon? Like what? That's like 5 miles an hour. And like,
you're like, yeah, do that at 35 and then let me see that happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's go bring up Kamikaze Joe with the batteries ejecting.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a monster, but still, like, dude, that thing was, the batteries were like, see ya, goodbye.
Yeah. Like it was a true feature, battery eject.
That's why you either have to accept it and laugh at it and just roll with it, or step away, or I don't know. Like it's out there. They're
It is, and if they don't acknowledge it and make changes, shame on them. Shame on them.
The market will decide.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
I hope that they do get better.
I do, and honestly, there I am again, glass half full. You know what I mean? I believe that they're doing what they need to do. Wink, wink. No, I mean, I don't know, but I hope. I do. I honestly do hope and believe. Like my Monster Pro has been delayed, and now that it's on its way here, I'm like, I was told that they upgraded everything. I just hope that they upgraded everything. And I'm like, it's upgraded, really, really.
I mean, Mike, is there any food? I think you had him on your show.
Yeah.
He bought the EXN and was texting Francisco about it. Was like, I'm so excited. It's going to be a bomb wheel. Mike talks.
Yeah.
And Francisco was like, you may want to wait till the snow goes away before you ride that. And he was like, nah, man, it's hype. Nah. And he was like, no, man, like Mickey has one. We're serious. Like, this is a real issue. It's not made up, man. He was like, nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Turns out, like, he just rode it the other day, like, for a few minutes. That was it. He's had it for weeks. He clearly listened to us and was like, I'm not digging it out. Because it's like over there, snow covered everything. Like, it's just starting to warm up. But it's like, it's real, man. So, but I hope it'll get better. What do you think is the future? What do you expect to come from this stuff in the future? Like next 5 years, Gotway nonsense aside, what do you think in general from this tech we will see? Give us a little Cobra prediction of what you think.
Well, okay.
It could be feature,
Let me do this twofold. Okay. I'm going to give you what I would like to see.
Okay.
And then I'll give you what I think we'll probably get.
Oh, I feel like this is a half full, half empty now. It's like...
So, have you seen
the Jetsons? Yes, I've seen the Jetsons.
No, flyboards. Flyboarding?
No.
When they connect you to a jet ski and you're on that thing and fly over the water, and they're doing like dolphin things in the water. Where you haven't seen flyboarding?
No, I feel dumb that I haven't. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Flyboarding it's basically it's like a jet under your feet, really, but it's connected to the jet ski. So the jet ski is using the water and propelling you in the air.
Oh, okay.
So the guy on the jet ski can ride and you can go behind him, and you're like, you can dive in the water and come up, but you can hover in the air. Ooh. You can dive back in the water.
Oh, wait, maybe I have seen this now.
Yeah. So now I take that. That was amazing. Then I saw someone with a real a jetpack and flying, and I'm like, that's what I want. Like,
It's there. Go get it.
that's what I want. I want to be able to take that and he did it over water, obviously. And several people sent me that video. They're like, whoa. And I said, I want to do it. Sign me up. And then everybody they said, we knew you were going to say that. I said, you know me, I'm a nut. I would love to try that. I can't wait till we get closer to that kind of thing being available for us. Maybe not to the point where I'm going to fly from here to Boston, through the air, but at least to the point where a true hoverboard, Back to the Future, like for real kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where
they lied to us. We don't have a real one yet.
No, that's what I mean. That's a lie. That hoverboard's a lie. I want a real one where we can genuinely hover. When I see things like the flyboarding and things like that, jetpack and the under feet jets. I saw one that was a giant, had 2 fans, and you strapped to your feet, and you kind of, it was the same thing. Like, you glide over water.
Like Spider-Man with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. The Goblin.
Yeah.
The Goblin. Yeah. So I want that ultimately. I don't know when I'll get that, but I want that. Now, as far as what I think we will get, I think that leaping forward is painful. And people and businesses and companies don't often take that as literal, and they don't pursue it as aggressively as they should. Like how veteran those people left the company because they just were not moving forward like they thought they should. And they left the company, created their own because they're like, look, dude, we can't be stuck. We're looking, they're mentally thinking forward, and we have to allow that to happen. And I think that going forward, we're gonna get higher speeds. Obviously, we'll get the safety that I'm hoping that we'll get the safety to match the higher speeds, like the smart BMS that we can monitor and stuff like that. I think the lighting system, all the things that we always want on a wheel, the best lights, the best sound, speakers and stuff to me is important. I know some of the things I think is important is not important to you. I know lights and stuff like that, the speakers are not as important because you usually connect the speaker to your shoulder or whatever.
The lights I'm okay with. If they're cool looking, I'm into that.
Yeah, I like the Tron lights that they came out with on the Monster Pro and the RS. I like the
they're
weird.
Cool. I agree.
Yeah, I dig those, and I like lights. Like I think those are important.
Those lights fix the problem of the stupidity of the MSX, right? Like those clown circus lights that look ridiculous.
Yeah.
The RS Monster Pro, cool.
Yeah, no, because the 16X had good lights. The Tesla has good lights, the circular lights and stuff. So certain wheels come out with good lights, and I think those kind of things are projecting us forward. And then we get like the EX and the EXN, no lights, and like arguably terrible headlight and taillight. So I'm like, well, what happened? And I think that was an old design that came out, and then the RS and Monster Pro is a newer design. It just seems like that's obviously what happened.
Yeah.
I think going forward, they have to be more open-minded and give us everything they can possibly think we want and more. Never build a wheel that's limited. Like lights. If you like those lights, you can have the ability to shut them off if you don't like those lights. But don't give me a wheel without them, because I think that's stupid. Because there are a lot of people who like them. So going forward, I just think they're going to give us more of the options that we want. And I think, bigger wheels, more speed, and more reliability. I mean, I'm gonna rest on that, but I want the jets on my feet. I want the hoverboard.
So to recap, you want a flying unicycle.
Yes.
That literally hovers and flies. So at that point, it's just a flying machine. But you think we'll just get the typical little improvements, but they will listen to us a bit and give us some more options for things in the future.
Yeah.
That's
all I think we're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're probably aligned with me. Well, aside from the flying thing, like I think in the future, we'll get bigger specs. We are still waiting, aren't we, about what the glass ceiling will be? Is that the right term? But like where they'll stop. Where's the buck going to stop for the specs, right? Because every year it's always like, dang, a little more, a little more. And it's kind of incremental. So it makes it seem a little more like, when will they stop, right? Because wasn't it Daniel?
126 volt.
Yeah. Well, it has to be, I think, 116 first. That would be the first step.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so I don't know what we can believe from Sean because he's Sean, but he always says like that 100 volt he had heard was the cheap way of creating a more powerful wheel that's also safe. But there's a better way to do it where you don't have to be 100 volts and still keep it safe. If that's true, then maybe we don't even need the 116 or 126. But so far, no company is abiding by that methodology of just doing a better job with 84 volts. That's not really happening.
I really don't think you can go backwards, though. I mean, I think now that we've reached 100 volt, you would kind of be remiss in trying to go backwards and trying to redo it at 84 volt, because anything you could do at 84 volt, you can do at 100 volt. So
I think what they need to do is revamp their line. It might be gradual over time in the sense of like, if they're smart, what they'll do is create one control board for all of their wheels, all at 100 volt. So all they have to do is just have different firmware that's tuned to each different size wheel. I know Gotway's trying to do this, but what's happening is, I feel like I was talking to someone about this, but like their MCM5 board, they kept a certain size to be the same size as like the Tesla board and all this kind of nonsense. It's like the downfall they had was like they made the MOSFETs too small. So it's like, listen, just rule of thumb, use the biggest honking MOSFETs you can find. But do it all the same across the board. So that might mean that your tiny wheel is a little less tiny. It's a little bit bigger to fit that. But like do that. Do some of the safety things we all want, need, and know should be there. I think they'll be on a better path if they do that. I mean, the safety is like always of the most concern, more so for us than a scooter, because it holds us up. If your battery dies while you're on a scooter or an e-board or an e-bike, you just look slow.
Yep.
If it dies for us, you look beat up. So like the safety's real.
There's so many videos. I just saw another one the other day of it was a woman on one and face planted, and I kept watching it back going, what happened? It looked like it just cut out. Like she was going faster and faster and faster, and then it just cut out. And bang, and the thing is, I don't think she had a helmet. I don't think she had like a long coat on, but no gear. I'm like, all right.
Maybe this is sort of like the reason. I don't know, man. I think way too much about this stuff so deeply, but it's like maybe that's the reason why at this juncture, like, I don't know that they can solve the problem, but since they can't so far solve the problem of preventing a cutout, like, there's no way people are going to casually commute with these, because who wants to look like RoboCop? You know what I mean? Like, so that woman's just like, oh, I'm going to like go to the park. You know what I mean? Like, when you ride a bicycle, you don't have to RoboCop up. You could go completely gearless on a bicycle and be fine. I mean, at the very least, people would say you should just wear a helmet, right? But like, I think that more than like, that looks scary, I think is probably an actual serious barrier to entry. For a much larger mass of people.
It is. Our gear does that to people. It makes them be, in trepidatious a little bit about it, because they're like, well, if I got to wear all that, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, well, I guess, but you ski, you snowboard, you know what I mean? And that you should be wearing a helmet.
Sure.
You're wearing the proper gear for what you're doing. So I don't know. I guess right now I really like my I've always liked gear anyway.
But that's what I'm saying. We're unique in that. Like, as a mobility device, because that's what everyone keeps trying to sell this stuff as at some level, is like like a V8 gets sold a lot to people who like don't wear gear, which is fine. I mean, of all of them, that would probably be the best one to go gearless on. But like, yeah, it's just like, it keeps being sold as this like, I mean, I sell it too this way, but I try to caveat with, you need to wear appropriate gear for the unexpected. But it's like this alternative to like driving your car or taking the subway. It's like, but there's this reality of crushing your teeth and making them go to the back of your throat. I mean, it's like, doesn't seem like
it
that's an
might bust
option.
your face open, but
Yeah, like when I drive my car down the street, I don't really worry about my teeth hitting my throat. Like, so.
So there's that. There's that. I mean, I think that is one of the things that, even though I love gear, it does slow you down, because when you want to just go for a ride, you got to put some stuff on, you know? So I like right now, I'm rocking the motorcycle gear, so I don't have to put the pads on the outside of my pants. I don't have to put the, elbow gear. I don't have to put that on, because I just throw on those pants and a jacket and I'm good, But in the summertime when it's hot, then I'm like, wait, I don't want to wear those hot ass pants. So then I got to put the stuff on the outside. So, I mean, it's a trade-off, but you got to have gear you like. Like I said, you got to have gear you like, because otherwise,
Yeah, I agree. Then you're not going to wear it, right?
No, you're not.
I like my gear, and I'm still annoyed by it.
Yeah.
I ride every day, though, too, So it's like, you should judge my level of annoyance, and then just see, you'll get there one day where you're just like, so if I go to the grocery store, I'll be honest, sometimes I wear nothing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really stupid, but sometimes I do it, on my MCM5. Grocery store's 2 blocks away. Like, obviously, I could still cut out in a 2-block whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like that heartbeat behind me wanting to just like, I just want to like cruise over there, Mm-hmm. The fact that, as we just joked, that could be a problem. I think that's the serious barrier that, people always say, well, can't they just solve it? And like all the like nerds go, you're an idiot. No, they can't solve that. It's like, they're kind of right as of now.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll change. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's the small frame that we're working within, and the amount of power that it has. It's kind of hard to make it where, especially when it's controlled by the person who's riding it. So no matter how good you make it, you can overpower it.
Yeah.
You just lean harder. So.
You don't know anything about that, do you? On a 16.
Yeah. I cut that part out of the video, but Panda was quick to point it out as we got to the cutout bridge, as is affectionately known to me now. As we rolled up on the bridge, he goes, "Hey, you can do it again. You got more practice now." I'm like, "Shut up, Panda."
You were on the Sherman this time, right?
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't worried about cutting out now, but on the 16X, I didn't know,
Sure.
You don't know what you don't know. And, 30% battery, you're in danger zone.
Well, I think you do a good job of educating people. I mean, through your own experiences and just seeing others and just, being somebody who actually rides. I think you do a good job. I think keep it up. I think in the future because we all see silly comments or questions online that are just like, huh? Like, or like Paul, I think I was saying that his most recent problems of wheels that have to be fixed by him have been people who were like trying to go 45 on an MSX in 25-degree weather at 40% battery. And you're like, huh? I mean, you just did like everything wrong. And you're like, I mean, thank God you're alive.
Yeah. You survived. Just be happy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think your platform, you've done very well amassing a very positive energy, and I think that's the most infectious part about you and your channel. It is that if I had a bad day, I would probably just turn on your channel, feel good about myself, and feel like the world's not crashing down on me.
Bunnies and rainbows. Well, that's good. I'm glad that's a fact, because I try to maintain it, and I'm glad it comes across that way. So, and I endeavor to be more like you. I watch your channel. Yeah, I watch your channel all the time looking for inspiration, because I know that you do things for entertainment, but I know that your skills when it comes to editing are unsurpassed when it comes to, especially when it comes to our space. There's nobody makes videos like you. So sometimes I watch your video, I rewatch a video going, okay, I got a lot of work to do. And I'm like, I'm like, my game is just nowhere near as tight as this. So I appreciate the effort that you put in to putting out good videos, because the fact that you do them and it comes across that you enjoy what you do. And that's what I love, because to me, I feel everything. So when I watch something, it's got to make me feel something, And when I watch your videos, I feel good about riding, and I want to go get my wheel. And I'm like, yeah, let's go.
I think that's like the problem. It's like maybe a blessing and a curse. And like I work in the TV commercial realm, so I think like I feel like I have an innate at this point. Well, it's not innate, but like learned, ingrained, I should say, sense of like how to really like sell something visually. And I'm always like, so maybe to my detriment, sometimes I'm like able to sell something when it needs to feel a little bit more real or just like, just chill or whatever. But I mean, I appreciate you saying that's high compliments. And I think that my tip to you would be, it's all in the shoot. It's not so much about the edit. There are plenty of times where I've been in the edit room and I was like, what I shot's trash. I need to go reshoot because I can't make a golden turd here. I mean, that's for real, man. Like if I don't have anything, another example, my day job is I'm a colorist, a color grade, big national commercials and films. And like, if someone provides me with bad shot footage, they reflects on me too, on the back end, right? So I'm like, there's only so far I can take your footage because it was just shot poorly. I can't tell the client that. I mean, I can sort of mention in some ways, like, well, this is as far as like I can push this footage before it breaks, which is like a real thing. But yeah, you gotta, I think about how to creatively shoot the thing that you're trying to do. That way you have enough good shots or a variety of shots or just creative shots that you can use in the edit. Then the edit becomes a lot easier. I can't tell you how many times I go to edit and it's like, oh, this edit felt less troublesome. Well, it's because I did a better job capturing the segment. Because I think of the videos as like certain segments. I script out like, this segment is going to focus on this. This segment's focus on this. There's no like script, like words.
Right.
I just kind of on the fly. But it's like, this is what the segment's about. And when I say I'm about entertainment or whatever, right, I'm focusing on the story progression. So I know a lot of people always, and it's like it sounds silly, but like the thing that I hate about my life is people always like, oh, you're such a good editor or whatever. And I'm like, I'm never thinking about that. I'm thinking about the story, the progression, the journey I'm taking you on.
Yeah.
Which is weird in the YouTube EUC space, because still to this day, people used to watch my videos and go, oh, well, your video was good from here, and I didn't like it at this point. I'm like, no, you didn't understand that I was taking you on a journey like a movie would, right? Like you wouldn't watch a rom-com, let's say, and at the point, which happens in every rom-com at about 70 or 80 minutes, when the couple decides to forgo seeing each other ever again forever, you wouldn't stop there and go, well, that's the shittiest rom-com I ever saw. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you go to the end and then go, huh, oh, I hated that they broke up, but they got back together and it was so good. Like,
yeah, you have to take the whole thing. It's as a whole. Yeah.
So
I know what you mean. And that is what, well, as far as what you were saying, shooting better, I have noticed that certain videos come together so easily because they were shot, because I had the idea beforehand and, and did exactly what I was thinking. And then when I went to edit, I'm like, this is great. And then there's other times where I'm like just shooting to be shooting. And then I get back and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to come up with?
right. You ever feel like you just shot a bunch of nothing?
Yeah. But I will say that a lot of unedited videos didn't get made. Like there's a lot of footage of stuff that I'm like, all right, at this point, I'm just going to delete it, because there's videos that I've shot that because I've made stuff that I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Like the video with the EX the first time, and I let Sean's comments be in the video, but he wasn't really standing that close. and it was raining, a shitty day. There was no mic.
Right.
So someone said, your audio is terrible. And I'm like, yeah, because I wasn't really planning to use that audio. I was planning to do a voiceover. But when Sean started saying so much, I said, just let him talk. And, but then it sounds like crap because it wasn't recorded well. And I was like, I should never have done that. And I knew it, but I did it anyway. And there's other things like that. Like you make a decision and you're like, eh. So when I go to edit something and I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And I don't finish it. Then I'm like, oh, well, next.
I mean, imagine, okay, so like I've had whole episodes that I've shot and finished and then deleted. Okay. And then other episodes where I've shot, edited, it's done. And then I go to color it because I color last. And then I uploaded it and I was watching it on YouTube, like unlisted. And I was like, I hate the color grade. Took it down, recolored the whole 20-minute episode, and then put it back up. Like Duff, I did that when I was down by Duff. And he was like, I'm sorry, I thought you said you did this like 3 days ago. I'm like, I didn't like it. But I mean, just imagine like for me, who I put a lot of, effort into this kind of stuff as well. Like when people make weird, like quality comments.
Yeah.
That's like
frustrating.
Like somebody said on a video. So I'm not an expert in audio, right? It's like probably my least, but I have really good headphones and I know how to go about making sure my audio is in a good place as far as like levels of everything, the final mix. It's not a professional mix like when I bring it to an audio post house, but it's pretty good. Somebody was like, oh, our music's too loud. I'm like, well, knowing what I know about this, how tech works, you probably have crappy headphones, because I did a really good job of like using the right kind of unbiased headphones to listen for the problems and like solve them. And I'll listen. Oh, let me see. Maybe they're right. Nah, you're nuts. You have bad headphones.
Yeah. I had someone do that to me not that long ago. Same thing. They're like, oh, I hate the music. And I'm like, okay.
Imagine in real life someone did that to you, like at a house party. Like, your shirt sucks. Are you 7?
And I was like, okay, well, I hate your music's so loud. I said, well, music to me brings the feeling in the video. Like the video doesn't come to life for me until I pick songs, and I love music. So yeah, sometimes it may be loud, but I try to turn it down to where, and I'll run it back and try to feel the vibe. Like, okay, that's a little much, or, and I try and I tone it down as much as I can to.
It's a delicate balance, man.
It is, and it's hard. It's hard. Every video is different. You're like, oh, but I thought this was a good set. No, well, watch it back. Listen to it back. Is it sound good or no? And you're like, But what I really didn't like was the other day someone said, oh, you got to get a new camera because your camera quality it's blurry and blah. I said, you're watching it
I apologize.
You're watching it on YouTube, right? And you're watching it, so YouTube has done their conversion. YouTube has, and you're watching it over Wi-Fi probably. So your connection has a, because
like cellular or something.
Yeah. So I've watched things before where you're trying to watch it, and you can see that the quality's not good, and then all of a sudden it catches up, and it's like, and you're like, oh, there it is.
Well, yeah, like on a cell phone, because I don't know about you, but my metrics show that 90% of the people watch on a cell phone.
Yeah.
So I know this because I have a cell phone too. If I go to watch my own video or your videos or whatever, it doesn't always just, even when I'm on Wi-Fi at home, it doesn't just throw HD up there. Like it will start at 360 and you're like, what? So somebody could have watched your whole thing at 360 and been like, your video quality sucks. You're like,
yeah. And it pisses you off because you're like, dude, you know that there's differences in what you're watching. You're not like watching it on a DVD in my living room. It's been broadcast across the world to you.
Yeah.
There's probably reasons why it doesn't look as good on your end. I'm like, I recorded it at 1080p. Dude, so
there's a million. Plus, what if they're looking at it on a monitor on their PC at home and they have a 7-year-old monitor that's on its way out?
Yeah. Well, the large monitor that I was connected to, it's a great curved, beautiful monitor, but it doesn't have great pixelation. Like the density on it is not great. So sometimes I watch things on it and I go, I have to move it to my smaller Apple screen because the Apple screen has better pixelation, and I'm like, oh, now that's okay. It does look good. Okay, then I'll bring it back to the big monitor because I want to work with the real estate. You know, I want bigger picture, but the quality, I'm like, But then I check the quality, 1080p, whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm good. So when he said that, the way he said it too, and I was like,
people are just keyboard warriors, you know?
yeah, and I was like, I did record it at good quality.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying before. Like, there's only so much if you're forcing yourself to like engage, right? And like be present in order to grow your channel. You can't not read the insane troll comment. You know, like you're gonna read it. So like it takes a lot of willpower to not respond. And I try really hard not to respond to those. Some of them I just go head first in, like, and some of them are deep and some of them are not. Like someone was like, hey, in your last podcast episode at the beginning, like I could only hear it on the left headphone on my left ear. And I went, take your headphones off and turn them around. Like, you think I'm not aware that, like, at that point I realized that something happened in the audio in my edit. I didn't swap that over to stereo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, generally trust me, I'm aware way before you are, Chief. Like, but at that point, it's YouTube. It's not worth ripping the whole thing down. 4,000 views up already. You know what I mean? Like that's silly. It's like
you can't do that.
Let it go. You know. But maybe it's a curse. Like if you do higher quality, the more they expect higher. It's like this never-ending insanity.
Well, one of the things that keeps happening to me, and I don't understand it, and I guess I'm gonna have to look it up and figure it out. I haven't had time to really like sit down and drill into it, but the sound effects. When I take sound effects and I put up, and I think it has to do with maybe because I have low memory on I've got so much shit on my machine. I don't know, but when in Final Cut, I put like a whoosh sound effect, right? Then I'll put a bell, and then later on when I watch it back, the sound effects are gone, and I'm like, what happened? And I look in the panel on the left where it shows all your that you have in your video, and you scroll down to where it shows the sounds and they're red. And for whatever reason, they're there, but they're not working. They've been like disabled. And I'm like, what? So I have to go find the sound again, drop it back into the timeline somewhere, anywhere, and then it turns green again. And I'm like, what happened? And then if I do 3 different sounds, one sound will go red. I have to redo it. And then when I watch it again, the other sound will go red. And I'm like, what the So I get mad and I don't know what the problem is. And it's frustrating me. So I'm like, but I'm so busy. I don't have time to sit and figure it out. And I'm like, this is probably something simple. Hopefully, I really don't know what it is.
It sounds like they're going offline. I don't know your workflow, but it sounds like for some reason Final Cut's seeing it go offline. Potentially, I would keep everything that you use in each edit in the exact same basically folder structure location. So for example, sometimes even at big edit houses, like I used to work for this guy back in the day, and he would download, temp music to work in the edit and that kind of thing while we're editing it. Sometimes he'd forget to put it on the server and it would still be like in his download folder, and that's how he drug it into the thing. So then later when we prepped a hard drive for him to take it home and keep editing, he's like, where's this missing sound file? We realized, we went to his computer, it's in your downloads folder. So keeping stuff organized tends to help. So I don't really obviously know what's going on there, but it sounds like it's going offline. You might be able to right click it and tell it to like find the footage again or sound effect or replace it, or there's probably some options like that. So you don't have to bring it back in.
The frustrating problem is that it keeps happening. And what I do now is I start a library, and I keep everything in the library, but it's all on the external drive. So I keep everything there.
Yeah.
And I try that way nothing's missing. But that sound effect thing keeps happening, and a few videos I've gotten uploaded, and I'm like, there's no sound effects.
Look into it later. Off this, we'll talk and see what error message it's giving you, why it's red.
But the thing is that I say that because some people will say, well, you're missing this, or that didn't sound, or this and this. And you're like, dude, trust me, the effort that is being put into this, sometimes things get missed, and it's like, it's frustrating, but you're like, just trust and believe. I want to give you the best I can. Just it's a lot. It's a lot of work, and I love doing it. Otherwise, I would have stopped.
Well, my film teacher, one of my teachers, told us it takes the same amount of blood, sweat, and tears to make a bad movie as it does to make a good movie. So it's like people are like, oh, I could see you I think someone said like, we can tell you put a lot of work into the EXN video. And I was like, honestly, I thought it was crap and I didn't put that much effort into it. And I kind of reused footage here and there. And yeah. And it's funny that you think that, which just proves the whole thing about YouTube is like, you never know. Like it could be your biggest, best piece you ever did put up online. No one cares.
Yeah.
There's more, again, another time, but more psychosis in that. Imagine if like a filmmaker like Scorsese made his best film ever, like legitimately his best film ever. It went in theaters and people didn't watch it. Just didn't show up. That would drive him off the cliff.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough because like my most watched videos, are videos that I did, years ago. And I'm like, still, I can't get
Well, that's
close
just a
to
time thing, right?
Yeah.
It's been online for longer.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I got like 20,000 views on a video and I'm like, oh, wow, lovely. Now I get like, 500. I'm like, okay. I'm like, whatever.
It's crazy,
then
man.
When I get 3,000, I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. It's hard to figure. If I did it just for that, I would go mad.
Yeah. Man. It's humbling, right? Like
it is.
Even like someone like myself who comes from a professional background, you have to let that go. Like I was on Clubhouse the other day and some lady came in and she was talking about her YouTube channel she started and she's like, I'm an award-winning casting director and I do this channel about cast directing for movies and I get like no hits. What the hell, guys? And you can tell everyone's holding their tongue. And this one guy, Curtis, was kind of like, like I'm sure you're very accomplished in your world, but YouTube is a whole different world and you for lack of a better term here, you have to earn it there. In the same way you probably rightfully earned it in the world you came up in, being a casting director for big time movies, but like it's just wildly different. It's like the Wild West, I call YouTube. It's like you never know. People who put no effort in and tried this much could blow up.
Yep. And you get frustrated when you see that because people are like, maybe you'll be as big as so and so. You mean so and so that puts no effort and just doesn't care and just records whatever the hell happens and they're like, woohoo, that was great. And I'm like, I spent hours editing this and get no love. And you're like, whatever. But I did it because I wanted to, and I did it because I hope somebody it would help somebody or somebody enjoyed it. So it's what it is. You got to do it because you love it. Otherwise, don't do it.
I mean, that's why we ride, right? Like,
yeah,
we love to ride, love to capture some video of the rides to show other people just how awesome it is, just how cool it is. We'll leave with this. If you were going to convince somebody who has never ridden an electric unicycle before, maybe they listen to my podcast, maybe they listen to stuff about electric vehicles or electricity in general, and you were like, here's your pitch to convince them they've never been on one. What would you tell them to convince them to purchase and start riding an EUC?
Yeah, I would say freedom. Like I said, the word freedom is the word that I use to describe it. The exhilaration is something that you can't replace. The sheer freedom that you feel, not attached to anything except what you're standing on, but your whole body is free to do whatever. I find myself sometimes with my arms out by my side and I'm just doing this because the freedom is real. It's intoxicating almost. And you don't feel it until you really know how to ride and you really like get into it. Sometimes I feel that flow where I'm going side to side and I'm bouncing back and forth and I can't even explain my dance background. I love to dance and that's how I feel. I feel like I'm dancing on the wheel. I'm like, hey, and I'm already happy anyway, but you put me on a wheel, I'm super happy. Like it's exhilarating, and to experience something like that is something that I think everyone in the entire world has got to experience. And when I tell people that, they're like, well, hell, I guess I got to try it. I'm like, yes, you do.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it.
I agree.
I appreciate you hanging out. This has been fun to kind of talk and get to know you a little bit better, and I guess by proxy, everybody who listens. Thank you so much for what you bring to the community. I'm happy to know you. I'm happy we've been able to ride together. You got to come back to New York very soon. Sure enough, it'll be the weather will be better for sure.
Yes, coming up. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for what you do, and I tip my hat to you, and we will keep riding and never stop.
That's right. Got him.
And as I say, remember to ride hard and keep it wheel.
That's right. Awesome, man. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.